Presented by Honda. We've been there from the start. Honda, official vehicle of the...
You're here tonight.
Since 1977.
Well, to say the least, this is a very important game for the Toronto Blue Jays as they wrap up this three-game series here at Yankee Stadium after suffering a couple of defeats. And last night's defeat, as painful as it was, they did get some good news out of town already today. The Orioles lost to Tampa Bay. The Tigers lost to the White Sox. The Red Sox are in San Diego a little bit later on tonight. Here is the starting lineup for the Blue Jays tonight, and we begin with a look at Edwin Encarnacion, who hit a home run last night, swinging a hot bat again, the American League leader in RBIs with 112 on the season. And Melvin Upton Jr.'s had a lot of success against the Yankees this season. Blue Jays hoping that continues here tonight.
That is the lineup that the Blue Jays will throw out there against Brian Mitchell. Blue Jays saw Brian Mitchell right at the end of spring training. It was March the 26th in Dunedin. He threw 4 innings against the Blue Jays, and then in his next start in spring training got hurt. Missed the first 5 months of the season when he was placed on the 60-day disabled list. He had a great big toe tear. Suffered right at the end of spring training. He's 25 years old. This is his first start since last August when he made a start against the Minnesota Twins. He's got good numbers, and if you're wondering if he's on a pitch count because this is his big league debut this season, no worries. He's played plenty of rehab starts down in the minor leagues. He threw 91 pitches in his last start, and he's good to go to get his 100 pitches tonight.
Take a look at the defense behind Brian Mitchell. There's some veteran speed in the outfield with Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury. Not the case in right. Tyler Austin played first. He's in right field tonight. Chase Headley, Didi Gregorius on the left side. Starlin Castro, Mark Teixeira. The Gold Glover is at first. His first start in this series. Austin Romine doing the catching tonight for Brian Mitchell. Hey, talking about defense, and Chase Headley has put on a show in this series. He robbed a couple of Blue Jays of extra base hits last night, going to the line, diving, making great plays. And he's a former Gold Glover, won a Gold Glove with the Padres earlier in his career, and he's really played well in this series.
I've counted 4 plays made by the Yankee defense in the first 2 games that have cost the Blue Jays 4 runs. Great defense so far.
Ready to go here in the Bronx. Devin Travis will lead it off tonight for the Blue Jays. And that's among the news items of the day, really, is that there's a new look lineup tonight. Evan Travis is back up to the leadoff spot. Jose Bautista is hitting cleanup tonight. So it's Travis, Donaldson, Encarnacion, and Bautista, the top 4 hitters in the lineup. And John Gibbons, whenever he's asked a question like this, why did you decide to do this? Usually the answer is, hey, just trying to mix it up a bit, seeing if something will click. He doesn't overcomplicate things. Bautista has good numbers this year with the men on base and with the runners in scoring position. Travis has been swinging a good bat, so they're going to try this out and see how it goes. Into right field and down for a base hit. Tyler Austin, who was the first baseman last night for the Yankees. He's got a lot of outfield experience, mainly in the minors. A little bit tentative coming over on that ball, and it drops in for a single.
This is second start of the season in right field. Yeah, John Gibbons said we got to get a spark. We got to get this offense and kick it into gear, so we're going to try something different. He puts Devin Travis in that leadoff spot. He inside outs that ball, hits it in a good spot for the first hit.
And he's cracked up Tim Leeper, although that's not the hardest thing in the world to do. The first base coach for the Blue Jays, who enjoys a good joke as much as anybody.
It's a good start, and his team has not hit well on this road trip.
Josh Donaldson will take a curveball high. Donaldson hitting .292 on the season, 34 home runs. 109 runs, tied with Mike Trout for the American League lead. 92 walks drawn, second to Mike Trout in the American League. They play him to pull, but not a full shift. Castro still on the second base side of the bag as Donaldson looks at a fastball for a strike. The Blue Jays have seen some of Mitchell before. He pitched against them 3 times as a reliever last year, twice in September. One of those went well, one did not go well at all. So some of them have a little bit of experience against him.
Well, if you remember him, he's got a very good curveball. He'll use that for a strikeout pitch. Good fastball. You saw a nice free and easy with that 95-mile-an-hour fastball, but his put-away pitch is a good curveball.
Austin Romine doing the catching tonight for the Yankees. Travis the lead, not going, and the 1-1 fastball just an inch or two outside for ball 2.
The good news for the Yankees with Brian Mitchell is he did not have an arm problem. He had a leg and a foot problem. So he's able to keep the arm strong all summer long. Joe Girardi's been waiting for him to get back into the starting lineup, and he's starting because Chad Green has been injured, and they're afraid to use Luis Severino out of the bullpen as a starter.
And we talk about the importance of this game to the Blue Jays, and that's obvious, but it's awfully important to the Yankees as well. There's 7 games over 500. They're only 3.5 out of the wild card race as they try to continue to make up ground, and they may pick up a little bit more in Baltimore and Detroit tonight. They're only 4.5 out of first in the East the way that they are playing right now. They're 9-4 in their last 13 games, and they have not given up hope at all that they can be playing baseball into October.
The Yankees have 25 games left on their schedule, and they only have 1 off day. That's on the 19th. So the youth in this lineup for Joe Girardi is probably going to serve him well because they're not tired in this 6th month of the season. They are energized.
Full count on Donaldson. Travis the lead, not running, and the 3-2, a swing and a miss to get him for the first out of the night. It is a tight race in the American League East right now. This is the closest the Yankees have been to first place since April the 28th. Blue Jays and Red Sox in a dead heat right now. Baltimore, as we mentioned, they lost this afternoon to Tampa Bay, 7-6 to the Rays. That game was on the television, as you would imagine, in the Blue Jays clubhouse when we walked in there about 3 hours ago. And also Boston is at San Diego. That game starts in 2 hours. David Price on the mound tonight for the Red Sox. Here's Edwin Encarnacion.
All 3, Boston, Baltimore, and Toronto, have an off day tomorrow. The Yankees will start a 4-game series against Tampa Bay right here tomorrow. Then the Dodgers come to town. And that's really interesting because the Dodgers are playing very well right now. And now you've got to face a team that you haven't seen all year. You never saw them in spring training, and you have to play some good baseball against them.
Runner goes, and it's fouled off by Encarnacion, 0-2.
Devin Travis, not really known as a base stealer. He's 3 for 4 this year in stolen bases. That one, it's almost like Mitchell forgot about him over there, and he got a great jump. No mystery to the lineup that John Gibbons has put together here. He said, I want to keep Encarnacion and Donaldson together. They're hot hitters. I want to keep them together, but I want to put Bautista in a spot to drive in some runs. So they dropped him down into that cleanup spot. Let's see if the Blue Jays can make it work early.
Now the 0-2 on the way, and a curveball grounded down to third. Tough stop by Headley. The second one and on to first. A double play to end the inning. So it begins in a promising fashion, but it does not end well for the Blue Jays. Marcus Stroman to the mound when we come back. Mentioned they are playing well. They are still in the hunt with 3.5 weeks left to go in the regular season. Let's take a look at the lineup that Girardi will put out there tonight. Jacoby Ellsbury batting in the 2 spot. He's been a problem for the Blue Jays in this series, but he has not been a problem for Marcus Stroman. 0 for 14 with 3 strikeouts in his career. Tyler Austin has been a problem. Hit a big home run for the Yankees last night. 3 hits and 9 at-bats against the Blue Jays this year, and all 3 have gone for extra bases.
28th start of the season for Marcus Stroman as he faces the Yankees. There are his numbers: 9-6 with a .458 earned run average. His stuff has been good over his last couple of starts, but they have not translated into wins. Against Minnesota, threw a lot of ground balls, but they found a lot of holes. Then in his last start against Tampa Bay, he threw 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs. Got a loss in that one. Said I had my best fastball, my best slider, just could not put the ball where I wanted to. Tonight, Blue Jays need him to step up big. We talked about it in the opening. He's an emotional kind of guy. A big stage here at Yankee Stadium, an emotional game last night. They need him to step up.
He's always pitched well against the Yankees. Had a very good start against them this year in April. 5-1 in 6 career starts against the Yankees with a nifty ERA of .239. Brett Gardner, who ended the game last night with that terrific catch, leaping up against the left field fence. He will lead off the game for the Yankees again tonight. Gardner, and you can't blame him at all, celebrated. He and Ellsbury almost look like 12-year-old kids out there celebrating going to the Little League World Series or something, and there was just pure raw joy and emotion in their body language after that catch.
It's a great reminder that these guys, they are kids at heart. They enjoy playing the game, and when they have a great moment like that, they're celebrating. I think it's great for the fans to see that.
There's a liner into left center, a base hit. Upton over to cut it off. Big turn by Gardner, but he will dive back into first base, aboard with a leadoff single.
Upton did a good job to get over and cut that ball off to keep Gardner from going to second. In the outfield, it is Upton, Pilar, and Michael Saunders starting in right field tonight. And on the infield, Josh Donaldson and Troy Tulowitzki on the left side. Devin Travis, Edwin Encarnacion on the right side. Russell Martin doing the catching tonight for Marcus Stroman. Edwin Encarnacion has done a terrific job over at first base. This is his 56th start of the season. He's committed just 2 errors. And remember, he's got good hands. His problems when he played third were throwing problems. He played 674 games at third, so he should be able to handle first base very well.
Jacoby Ellsbury steps in and takes just outside, ball 1. Good speed at first in Gardner. 13 out of 15 stealing bases this year. Ellsbury hitting .267 on the season. And a strike.
For me, these are the 2 guys you really have to handle. Gardner, that was just his 4th hit in 18 at bats. Jacoby Ellsbury's 0 for 14. And you know, when these 2 guys get on base, the Yankees win. So you got to keep them off base. And Stroman's had a lot of success against them.
even with that hit by Gardner, if you add up the totals of all the guys in the lineup for the Yankees tonight, they're 11 for 69 against Marcus Stroman in their careers. As we mentioned, he's pitched very well against the Yankees. Now, that may not mean anything tonight, but he comes in here knowing he has handled a lot of these Yankee hitters very well in his career. And a swing and a miss to get Ellsbury for the first out.
First game of this series, Gardner and Ellsbury were the guys who were the catalysts that helped the Yankees score some runs. So you're right, you got to keep them off base. That is an important pitch, I think, right there for Marcus Stroman, that four-seam high fastball. He says, I can't really get it up there as much as I'd like because I'm a short guy, and a lot of time that tends to be over the middle of the plate. But I think it's an important pitch for him just to change the eye level.
And it's not a pitch he's become known for. He's become known for throwing the sinker, the two-seamer, getting a ton of ground balls, gets more ground balls than any pitcher in baseball as he's in there with a breaking ball for strike one to Starlin Castro. Buck, do you like that rising fourth-seam fastball from Stroman?
Makes all the difference in the world for him. And you remember when he first came up, that's what he threw. And he learned the sinker, and I think he fell in love with it a little bit too much. Got away from his great breaking ball.
He says that. He says, when I came up, I was a four-seam fastball, curveball, slider type of guy, and I found the two-seamer. As a hitter, you start looking down for everything. At some point, you got to stand him up, and you got to make him change his eye level. That's why that high fastball is a good pitch for him.
He's thrown a curveball and a slider so far to Castro to jump out in front 0-2. And Castro chases that slider down and away to strike out on 3 pitches.
This Marcus Stroman start is brought to you by BioSteel Sports Nutrition, the natural choice for everyday performance. Drink the pink.
So back-to-back strikeouts for Stroman after the leadoff man Gardner reached on a base hit, and here's the shortstop Didi Gregorius. Gregorius hitting at the cleanup spot. Gary Sanchez not in the lineup tonight, so that moves things around a little bit for the Yankees. Moves Castro up. Gregorius hit cleanup last night as well. Mark Teixeira's in the 5 spot. Brian McCann 6 tonight for the Yankees. A very solid season for Gregorius, offensively and defensively.
He got a huge hit for the Yankees last night, didn't he? Hit a triple over the head of Pilar in the left center field.
Just outside.
When it left the bat, it looked like it was just going to be a fly ball to left field, but it kept carrying. It shows you the kind of power that he has in that swing.
29 doubles, 17 homers, and that triple was his first of the season. But Pilar was shaded a step toward the alley in left center, and he just took another step to his right before this pitch here. I have no problem with Pilar playing him in the alley, especially in this ballpark, because if Gregorius hits it well to right, center, and right, it's going to go out of the ballpark. So you take the step toward the big part of the diamond and try to protect that alley in left center.
A big center field here in the Bronx. 385 to right center, and as you mentioned, 399 to left center, about as deep as it gets in Major League Baseball. Sharply hit, knocked down by Travis. Wide throw, and Stroman will get into foul territory to prevent that ball from possibly rolling down into the dugout, and the Yankees wind up with the runners at first and second.
Once you backhand the ball like that, you're not going to have a play, and I think Devin Travis is going to have to learn that when he goes over there and can't cleanly backhand it, you don't have a play. It'll be an infield hit. He's got a long way to go to his right, but he went for it with the palm up instead of a backhand, and that created a problem for him. Josh Donaldson's got to watch the flat of that ball and back up the play.
Total should have backhanded that ball. That ball handcuffed him because he tried to catch it like a normal ground ball. Ball was hit hard, but that was a play that a big leaguer should make, I think.
And it has been scored an error on Travis, so fielder's choice E4. The end result is the same, first and second with 2 down, and an opportunity now for Mark Teixeira. Teixeira, who has had a terrific career, has announced he's retiring at the end of the season. He's had so many injuries the last couple of years, just unable to stay healthy. Contract up at the end of the year. And not playing all the time, not playing anywhere close to all the time. The Blue Jays have seen Tyler Austin at first base in this series, but still a power threat. Still a guy who from either side of the plate can hit one out.
Almost tailor-made for this ballpark from the left side. We all know about how short right field is here, but when you watch him swing from the left side, loads up on that back leg, drops that shoulder, almost tries to lift the ball in the air to right field.
The 1-2, and there's that high four-seam fastball again, but Teixeira wouldn't chase.
That's a tough one to lift right there. And that's why they're trying to throw it upstairs, because he's got that uppercut swing and he's vulnerable to that high pitch.
And now he gets him to chase on a pitch down and out of the zone, and Stroman strikes out 3 in the inning to get out of trouble. No score at the end of 1. Jose Bautista's in the cleanup spot tonight. He will lead off the second and will be followed by Russell Martin and then Troy Tulowitzki.
It's time to log on and earn yourself some points. Here's tonight's code, MBJ1075. The entry box can be found on your My Blue Jays homepage. You have till 11:59 tonight to enter the code. And guys, with Bautista leading off the inning, interesting to note this is only the 15th time in his entire career that he has been the cleanup batter in the lineup.
And none of them have happened this season. He's hit first, he's hit second, he's hit third, he's hit cleanup tonight. He'll be followed by Martin and Tulowitzki. And a fastball drilled in by Mitchell for a called strike. In the series, Bautista's 2 for 6 and he's walked 4 times, so he has gotten on base a lot. Takes another strike and it's 0-2. Again, John Gibbons just saying he's just trying to shake things up a little bit, get a spark, see if moving people around a little bit might jolt the offense. There you can see his numbers in very limited opportunities hitting cleanup in his career, but for a guy who's had the career that he has, I wouldn't think it matters if he's used to hitting third. We get that, but it shouldn't make a difference hitting fourth.
No, not now, especially the way the team is struggling to score runs. I think everybody's open to whatever John Gibbons thinks might work.
Some guys,
it was the Blue Jay players that came to Gibbons in May and said Bautista should lead off and we need to shake up the lineup. Now, I think the move is a good one.
I asked him if he came back, did the players come back and say Jose hit fourth? He said no, it was my idea. Like you said, I want to shake it up. I want to try something different. There are certain guys, I think, who just rise to the occasion in RBI situations. Their game just elevates. Jose, one of those guys for me.
Flies out to center field for the first out of the inning. And that'll bring up Russell Martin, who of course has been such a hot hitter in recent weeks. He moves from the 4 spot to the 5 spot with Bautista hitting cleanup. So he and Tulowitzki moving down a notch in the lineup. Martin overall hitting .246, 17 home runs and 64 driven in. A very big game to say the least for the Blue Jays. They come into action tonight tied with the Red Sox for the lead in the American League East. The good news with the Baltimore losing in Tampa Bay, so Baltimore is now a game and a half back. The Tigers, who are a factor in the wild card race, and of course the Blue Jays, they don't want to be a factor in that race, but if they are a factor in that race, Detroit is an issue. And Detroit losing today to the White Sox, so they are now 2.5 behind the Blue Jays.
John Gibbons was asked that today about emotions and playing with emotions and how tough the game is this time of the year, and he says our guys are disciplined about that. He says they seem to play their best baseball when their backs are up against the wall. They come out swinging, they have that resiliency, and they come out and they play good baseball. Well, their backs are against the wall right now. You can feel it.
Good curveball, 2-2.
I think the one thing about the Blue Jays, and we have seen this all season long, they have had a tendency to lose game 1 of series. And it's almost like that's a wake-up call to say, wait a minute, we're better than you guys, and they came back and win the series time and time again. But there are enough veterans in this lineup not to be too concerned about the loss last night. And if I'm playing, and I did a little informal survey with the players today, they're in first place. If you win, you take care of business. You don't have to worry about anybody else. And I think that's the attitude this team has taken. And I think most of them don't believe they've played their best baseball yet.
Chopper over the mound, out to second. Nice hop for Castro and on to first, 2 down. Well, if they are going to play their baseball, there's no time like the present with the Red Sox coming to town on Friday. That's going to be
if they play
huge
good
weekend.
on Friday,
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Can veterans bounce back after a tough loss like that easier than young players? Young players, you know, just not real sure of the situation, and they don't really care. They just go out and play. You think veterans bounce back after tough losses like that easier?
I do. I think veterans understand, hey, we still have the lead. And Smoke was talking about it a bit today, and that, you know what, I didn't really barrel up that ball as well as I could have, and yeah, it stayed in the park, but hey, we got to the closer, we rallied, we've been in position to win, but we didn't. And, you know, I think all these guys understand what's at stake, and now they're not looking past this game tonight. They're focused on trying to beat the Yankees.
Troy Tulowitzki, the batter, with 2 outs and the bases empty. Tulowitzki hitting .251 with 22 home runs on the season. And he shoots one to right field. It'll be past Austin. It'll get to the fence, and Tulowitzki easily into second base. As again, Austin for the second time tonight kind of caught in between on a ball out to right field.
Well, with 2 outs, all you want to do is make sure that you play this ball on a hop. You don't want to give Tulowitzki extra bases. So it was a poor decision by Austin, who's playing just for the second time in right field. It's a line drive with 2 outs. Just concede a base hit. First of all, you're a first baseman. I know you've played a lot in the minor leagues as a right fielder, but you're first baseman. Play it on a hop, keep it a single, no harm, no foul. But Tulowitzki ends up in scoring position now for Michael Saunders.
You don't see too many extra base hits on a line like this in this ballpark because it's so short into right field. That ball slicing away from Austin. He was the star in yesterday's ball game.
So it goes as a double for Tulowitzki, and here's Michael Saunders hitting .268 with 23 homers. And the first pitch fastball for Mitchell is low.
All of these teams in this division race are so tightly matched that misplays and errors are going to loom very large here in the last 3 weeks of the season. And everybody will take advantage of them. I don't care who you're playing. From Tampa Bay to the Red Sox and the Blue Jays.
And it can be anything from a physical error to a mental mistake to not getting a bunt down, not advancing a runner when you have a chance, lots of different things.
Making third out at third base, just bad base running decisions. All of those things are going to be magnified in these final 24 games.
What about bad pitches? Make a bad pitch. You should throw a fastball or you should throw a breaking ball in certain counts, and you just make bad pitches.
Bad pitch selection is really going to be a problem. And last night we saw that with Starlin Castro at the plate. 0-2 count, and they chose to go with a fastball. Hits a sac fly, drove in the go-ahead run.
3-0 the count on Saunders. Let's see if he has a green light with a runner out in scoring position and 2 down. Took a bell tie strike, 3-1. On deck, Melvin Upton Jr. should the inning continue. Tulowitzki at second, 2 down, and the Blue Jays looking to strike first here in the top of the second inning. Got a fastball in the zone, fouled it off left side, 3-2.
What teams will challenge the Blue Jays with fastballs, and Brooke Jacoby was telling me the other day, the hitting coach for the Blue Jays, said, you know what, I got to get my guys back on the fastball. I don't know if they're looking for breaking balls in certain situations, but teams have been heating them up. Like right there, 3-1, that was a fastball, very hittable pitch, and he was late on it.
Now the 3-2. And a curveball pulled foul. So late on the fastball, early on the curveball is Saunders the last couple of pitches. As the saying goes, hitting is timing, and the object of pitching is disrupting that timing. And that's what Mitchell's trying to do here with Saunders, with a runner out in scoring position for the Blue Jays.
He's got a good fastball, and he's got a good breaking ball. Not a lot of history between the Blue Jays and this pitcher. Right now, you can't guess along with them. You have to just look for the baseball and let your eyes tell you what you see.
3-2 again. Fastball, and this time Saunders fights it off, back out of play. Mitchell was having a great spring for the Yankees when he suffered a toe injury that has cost him the better part of the season. He would have been a factor on this staff, one way or the other. He pitched for the Yankees last year, made 20 appearances. Boy, Aaron Sanchez was good last night, just touched up for a couple of home runs, one by McCann, and then the one that really hurt by Austin. 7 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs. 3-2. Saunders hits a roller out to second. Castro on to first, and the Blue Jays will leave a man on. To the bottom of the second in the Bronx, no score.
Those 3 games. I had a chance today to speak with GM Ross Atkins and asked him what is the plan with the rotation after that. He said in fact he has 3 plans in place. Where it goes, it's going to depend on many things. How the team is doing, how the other teams are doing, and how individuals are doing. He says right now everything is very fluid. He doesn't know exactly whether or not they need to give Aaron Sanchez another break at some point. Maybe they'll be able to run him the rest of the way. One guy who has been affected by this, though, is Francisco Liriano, who is not technically in the rotation right now, but he's also not in the bullpen tonight. John Gibbons says he wants to make sure that he is available to pitch during the Boston series in relief. They also may hold him out and have him start early next week. Guys, there are so many balls in the air with this Toronto Blue Jays team right now. They're really going day by day as to where they're going to go with this plan.
But it's really a lot of good options, and they have options they can go to where other teams are just scrambling to find pitchers, like Brian Mitchell tonight pitching for the Yankees. And you know what, I think if you ask the Yankee players about whether or not they should skip Sanchez, they would vote for that.
So would everybody else.
No, he looks tired to me. I don't think he should pitch him anymore.
I've had managers on this road trip tell me, I wish I had the type of options that the Blue Jays have with their pitching staff.
Yeah, they've done a terrific job all year long keeping these guys healthy, and that's Sal Butera, who's been with the team for the last month and a half, and he's a former catcher and a former big league coach, so he's got a lot of input. He can pass along his information as well.
Ryan McCann, the batter, and he takes outside. 2 balls and a strike. So the 3 options, if Ross Atkins specifically was referring to 3 options for Monday, it could be R.A. Dickey, who was at for the moment, pushed behind Sanchez. We don't know how far back, but he could obviously start on Monday against Tampa Bay. It could be Liriano coming out of the bullpen if he's not needed in the bullpen over the weekend and if they want to get him back in the rotation. Or it could be tonight's starter Stroman because of the off day tomorrow. Monday would be the regular day for Marcus Stroman. Ground ball into the shift. Tulowitzki up with it and on to first. One down. But again, that, some of that may have to do with whether or not Liriano's needed this weekend, whether or not they decide to skip Sanchez again at some point. For sure, they want to make sure that Sanchez can pitch as much as possible against the teams in their division they're competing against.
Yeah, man, I think they have a couple of real important starts in their mind. The start against Baltimore at home late and the start against Boston in Boston late, last day of the year. So I think they'll work backwards from that. And, you really run a risk of kind of putting a lot of doubt in people's mind when you say, okay, well, this isn't a big enough game for you. We're going to save you for this game. And then the other guy steps in. And, well, what am me? I think they've done a better job of communicating their wishes than we are aware of.
Well, there's also the numbers, too. Some pitchers pitch better against other teams. And if you have the option of pulling a guy or resting a guy or putting him in there, they have that option. All they have to do is look at the numbers and the matchups.
I think what you have to do is stay with this 5-man rotation through the Tampa Bay series. Just keep it right the way it is right through Tampa Bay and then see where you're at.
So Dickey starting Liriano in the bullpen.
The way it turns out.
Yeah.
They haven't announced if Dickey's going to start.
Right.
I'm saying you could start Stroman on Monday.
Broken bat roller. Pitch right in on the hands of Chase Headley. And that is the second out, as Tulowitzki's made a couple of plays on the second base side of the bag.
Well, that's what I mean about the second game against Tampa Bay. You can throw Dickey or you can throw Liriano if he's healthy, depending on who pitches more over the weekend against Boston. The quote that was said to me was, we're going series by series right now with our pitching staff.
Starting with a game Friday night against Boston, the Blue Jays have games 13 days in a row. They don't have an off day next week. They have 13 games in a row. Then they have an off day. Then they have 10 games in a row to finish the regular season. So if they stay with 5, not a lot of opportunity to rest people. But again, as I think, Buck, you mentioned, it all starts maybe with working backwards, with having Sanchez lined up for the final Sunday against Boston, the prior Tuesday against Baltimore, and you work backwards from there.
The Blue Jays have an off day on Thursday. So do the Red Sox and the Orioles. Then the Blue Jays have an off day on the 22nd, and that might be an advantage because their off day is earlier than both the Red Sox and the Orioles, who will be off on the 26th. So the Blue Jays will have a better idea of how to set up their rotation with that off day on the 22nd than where the Orioles and the Red Sox. After that, the Red Sox have 3 games at New York and 3 in Toronto at home. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
1-2 the count. Tyler Austin lays off a slider outside.
You know what? It's all moot if the Blue Jays go out and just win. If they get hot, like they did last year, this time of the season, they got into September and they steamrolled the competition. You do that, doesn't matter who's pitching.
I tell you, the difference between last September and this September, competition is much better this September. Teams weren't as good as they are this year in this division.
Boston wasn't as good as they've been playing this year. Yankees.
Yeah. They're much better teams now, and even the Yankees, they're 4th place, well over 500.
Full count pitch on the way to Austin. Lined into right center field and down for a base hit. Beyond Travis, but in front of Pilar, a 2-out single for Austin.
Make your renovation a cut above during the DIY Expert Sale, only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
Bottom second here in the Bronx. It's not quite as windy, not nearly as windy, in fact, as it was last night. A little bit breezy from left to right, but a nice night for a ball game. Starting to feel like fall is in the air. The Yankees with a runner at first, 2 down in the bottom of the second for their catcher, Austin Romine, who looks at a curveball for called strike 1. Gary Sanchez not in the lineup tonight for the New York Yankees.
He had kind of a rough night last night physically. He had a couple of backswings hit him. Catcher's interference, took a ball off his body, blocking a ball. A lot of things went on with him. You just kind of wonder whether or not he's a little bit sore today. And look at his night last night, Pat. He had a rough night in many different situations.
That's the one right there. I thought he might have broke a bone on that swing by Donaldson. And then this one right here, that's going to just traumatize that whole hand. And here's the one you're talking about. That ricocheted off of his forearm, then off of his body. You're right. He got beat up in yesterday's ball game. 21-game streak where he got on base. Tough to take that bat out of lineup, so there has to be something wrong with him.
0-2, and again Stroman goes to the four-seam fastball, trying to get a swing and a miss on a pitch above the zone, but he is so far above the zone with that pitch that Romine wouldn't bite. So the count now 1-2. And now gets him on a curveball in the dirt to pick up his 4th strikeout of the night and end the inning. We're through 2 in the Bronx. No score.
Hockey is back and the pre-tournament begins soon. Let the debate begin. Who owns this game? It's Canada versus the U.S. Live from Columbus. It goes Friday on Sportsnet 1 and 360. And guys, of course, this coming spring it will be another World Baseball Classic, and a number of Blue Jays have talked about their desire to play for their countries again.
I actually had a talk with Roberto Osuna about that today. He is hoping to be a part of the World Baseball Classic. Of course, Osuna is from Mexico, and he knows that Mexico is in a tough bracket. Of course, Canada's in a tough bracket. They're with the United States and the Dominican, and only 2 come out. Mexico's with Venezuela and Puerto Rico, and only 2 advance to the semis. But Osuna's eyes lit up when he talked about potentially pitching for Mexico. Here's Melvin Upton Jr. to lead off the 3rd for the Blue Jays. No score between the Blue Jays and Yankees. Hits are even at 2 apiece. And a strike from Mitchell. Upton playing left field tonight. Saunders in right, Pilar in center. Encarnacion is at first. Bautista is the DH, so Smoke is not on the lineup. There's a curveball that misses just low. Pretty good bite on that pitch, but it's 1-1.
Melvin had a couple of really good at-bats in last night's ball game that really kept innings going, kept rallies going for the Blue Jays.
Well, when he reached on that infield hit in the 9th inning, didn't you kind of have a feeling, okay, if that's going to go the Blue Jays way, they're going to figure out a way to win this game, but they couldn't do it.
He hit a ball right off the end of the bat that got by Betances, and Betances went for it and then realized he had to cover first and never got there in time. Upton beat him to the bag, but Upton walked as a pinch hitter against Tommy Lane in the 8th. Came around to score on the Kevin Pillar 2-run double, and then he got that RBI single in the 9th.
Lays off the breaking ball in the dirt. Full count. Kevin Pillar, who had a very good night at the plate, but as we remember from the 9th inning last night when he took the curveball for strike 3 called for the 2nd out, how frustrated he was, smashing his bat several times in the dugout. He did go 3 for 4 with a walk prior, or including that out. as Upton bounces one foul, but you know, a lot of the good that was done, and there was a lot good done by the Blue Jays last night, but all that people ultimately will remember is they fell 1 run short.
I asked John Gibbons, do you like that kind of emotion that you saw from Kevin Pillar? He says, hey, this is an emotional game, and yeah, I love that emotion. He says, don't direct it at me when I'm standing right there next to the bat rack.
Of course, that happened here in Yankee Stadium with Donaldson and John when they got into on the last trip here at Yankee Stadium when Donaldson came back frustrated over an at-bat. Yeah, it's an emotional game.
Yeah.
And that situation, Kevin Pillar was very upset he couldn't pull the trigger that third strike curveball.
Now let's see how the Blue Jays play this. John Gibbons has said he's looking for a spark. Upton, of course, has speed. He was thrown out a couple of days ago by Gary Sanchez, but this is Austin Romine catching, who has thrown out only 3 of 23 base stealers this year. And a guy who can handle the bat a little bit, make some contact in Kevin Pillar. Let's see if Upton's on the move.
You know what I would like to see right here? Push a bunt. Push a bunt between first and second base. You could see Castro, the second baseman, shading over towards the bag in double play depth. Teixeira's got to hold the runner on at first base. Push a bunt that way with his speed. It could be first and second, nobody out.
Not going. And it's outside, ball 1 to Pillar. So you can bunt, you can hit and run, you can steal, or you can just play it straight.
What you don't want to do is get a ground ball right here. Blue Jays have hit into too many double plays that have snuffed out some rallies on this road trip. They ended the first inning on a double play.
Had a big double play in last night's game with the bases loaded. Justin Smoke grounded into a 3-6-1 double play. That was one of the great defensive plays the Yankees turned last night. They also had a double play turned against them in the 4th inning. Troy Tulowitzki grounded into a 5-4-3 double play.
Upton's got 5 stolen bases since coming to the Blue Jays. Being held on by Teixeira. The count 1-1 on Pillar. And he'll draw another throw. Up high, 2 balls and a strike now on Pillar.
Scoring first hasn't been a problem for the Blue Jays. Scoring, adding on, and then holding the lead has been the problem for the Jays.
Yeah, they've scored first in their last 7 games. Every one of their last 7 games, but they've lost 5 of the 7.
It's the add-on runs and then an ability to shut down the opposition late in the ball game.
Runner not going, and high again, and now Mitchell has lost his command, and Romine's going to jog out to the mound.
Slow things down just a little bit. Bryan Mitchell, you mentioned that he fractured his sesamoid bone right at the end of spring training. His goal was always to get back in September, so he worked very hard over the summer to get back here in September, and it has worked for him. He's getting the start tonight.
That's kind of interesting. The guys who are up in September for the Yankees, it's part audition for 2017, but it's more than that because they're still in it here in 2016. Mitchell making his first major league appearance this year. Upton is running, and the pitch fouled off by Pillar. It's a full count.
Mitchell made his last start in AAA against Buffalo, and of course the Blue Jays have their affiliation in Buffalo. So Bo Schultz was with the Blue Jays when he pitched against Buffalo, and Schultz, a pitcher himself, really thought that Mitchell threw the ball well. Said he was up to 96, had a good breaking ball. He said what I saw, he was able to maintain his velocity deep into his outing last time out in the minors.
See if Upton is running again on 3-2. He is. Pillar fouls it off again.
Kevin had a 3-hit night. He walked, and then he had that strikeout in the 9th inning. So he finished up 3 for 4 in the ball game, scored a run and drove home 2. And that's the kind of night he's going to need again tonight to get this team going. Need the bottom of the order to produce for this Blue Jays offense to really get going.
Mitchell the set. Upton running again. 3-2 taken for ball 4, and the Blue Jays have the first 2 men on here in the third. Now back to the top of the order for Devin Travis with good speed aboard for the Blue Jays, and pitching coach Larry Rothschild on his way to the mound.
Larry Rothschild, a former manager, in fact the first manager for Tampa Bay, but a terrific pitching coach with a great demeanor about him, and he's out here with some youngsters trying to get them to relax and understand what their strengths are. And certainly for Mitchell, it's pitching ahead. His stuff is very good, and he hasn't been able to get to his breaking ball because he hasn't pitched ahead early in this game.
2 walks here to the 8 and 9 hitter. Maybe Larry Rothschild sees something, a little tell, if you will, that Bryan Mitchell is showing. Maybe his legs are getting a little tired.
Well, a concern anytime you walk Kevin Pillar is that, hey, Kevin Pillar doesn't walk very much. 18 walks now all season long in 123 games. So you got to understand who you're pitching against and challenge Kevin Pillar to put it in play.
So the Blue Jays get back to the top of the order now with Devin Travis, who flared one into right field for a base hit his first time up. Very good speed on for the Blue Jays with Upton at second and Pillar at first and nobody out. Headley is in on the edge of the grass against Travis and angling his body so he can see the runner as well, anticipating a possible bunt from Travis. Travis shows, pulls the bat back, and he takes ball 1.
Well, Blue Jays are a team that doesn't bunt very much. They've had 18 sacrifice bunts all season long, and you know, Travis is an offensive player. I might let him swing now, thinking the Yankees are going to give him a fastball after he shows bunt on the first pitch.
He does not have a sacrifice on the season.
After watching him on that first attempt, I was thinking the same thing. He almost jabbed at it a little bit. He hasn't been asked to sacrifice.
Well, after he takes a strike, the corner infielders don't back up at all. They're still in tight. Now Headley will back up 2 or 3 steps just to the edge of the grass. Still in even with the bag at third. One one. Down and away, ball 2.
A lot of Blue Jay fans get frustrated when John Givens doesn't bunt, but when you have 18 bunts all season long, you can ask your players in a crucial game in September, say, well, why don't you sacrifice now? Well, I haven't done it all year. Do you want me to do it now?
Said that's not how my team is built. We got a lot of sluggers with a lot of home run potential. We also have a lot of strikeouts. We don't have many guys who can sacrifice.
Fouled off 2-2, and there is activity, guys, in the Yankees bullpen. Right-hander Luis Severino is up, a guy who they had very high hopes for at the beginning of the season. Some thought he might be as much as their number 2 starter. He wound up getting sent down to the minors because he pitched so poorly, and he's come back as a reliever here late in the season.
Yeah, they're just trying to gain some confidence for him and get him into situations where he can have some success before he closes the book on this season.
Down to third, to second one, back to first, another double play.
Chase Headley over there at third base has looked like a Gold Glover in this series. Everything that the Blue Jays have hit that way, he has caught and turned into big plays. This time he gets his momentum going over to second base. Nice turn by Castro. Blue Jays ended the first inning with a double play, and that's a big one after the 2 walks to lead off this inning. That's exactly what they didn't need.
So the end result after the double play ball is Upton's at third with 2 down for Josh Donaldson. Donaldson struck out his first time up, now 1 for his last 14. Blue Jays with the off day tomorrow before the Red Sox come to town for a huge 3-game series. With Marco Estrada scheduled to get the start on Friday. J. Happ Saturday. Aaron Sanchez Sunday. Very high with a breaking ball. Good stab there by Romine. Upton began the inning by walking. 2 outs later, he's at third. And the 1-1. Just outside. You can see Romine trying to bring it back over the outside corner, but Quinn Wolcott, the home plate umpire, didn't bite. Might be hearing it a little bit, and he is, as he's in conversation right now with Joe Girardi, leaning over the railing on the first base side of the field. Ground ball to short. The Blue Jays get the first 2 men on and can't cash in. To the bottom of the third in the Bronx, still no score. For the Yankees in this scoreless game, and Yankee fans still buzzing 24 hours later about this amazing catch that he made to clinch a victory for the Yankees last night.
Looked like it was going to be a hit by Smoke, that it was going to put the Blue Jays ahead, but you could see the excitement, the dejection by the Blue Jays, and the excitement as Gardner and Ellsbury come on in. That thing looked like it was headed right off the top of the wall. When he got back there, timed his leap, caught the ball, rattled around a little bit in his glove, but finished off the play. And Blue Jays, I'll tell you, they just can't catch a break right now.
Gardner had a base hit his first time up. He'll be followed by Ellsbury and Castro here in the third against Marcus Stroman. Stroman has looked good so far. He's given up 2 hits through 2 innings. Has not walked a batter. He has struck out 4, and the other 2 outs have come on the ground. As mentioned, very good numbers here, very good numbers against the Yankees in his career. Making his 28th start of the season, 9-6 with a 4.58 ERA coming in.
Well, Mark has made some dramatic mechanical adjustments mid-season, and I think he's really done a great job of adjusting on the fly. He's pitched very well of late. He has minimized the pitches he used, and I think it's served him very well.
Great movement on that fastball back over the inside corner, 1-2. Gardner thought it was inside. Infielders basically straight away. Outfielders playing Gardner somewhat to the opposite field as he lays off a pitch in the dirt. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Marcus made his 4th major league start here at Yankee Stadium back in 2014, and he was out of the game after 3 2/3. Brett Gardner hit a home run in that game. And then he came back in his very next start at Rogers Center and beat the Yankees 8-3. Went 8 innings and allowed just 3 hits. So he has in the past pitched very well against this ball club. You see his record for 6 career starts at 5-1. Of course, he came back last year and made his first start of the season right here at Yankee Stadium and finished up 4-0 in September.
It's a pop-up on the fastball. Donaldson, the third baseman, in on the grass, will make the catch for out number 1. Well, some encouraging news, although the overall numbers are not where Marcus Stroman wants them to be. He's definitely had a better second half of the season.
And that's exactly what Buck was talking about, where he made some dramatic physical adjustments to his windup and his the way he delivers the pitch towards home. He had the high earned run average. July, August, and September, it's been much better. He has simplified things out on that mound. You can see he starts from that side saddle position now, and it says it helps him to get the ball out of the glove just a little bit quicker and get his arm up, and his pitches they've had a lot more quality to them.
Fastball over the outside corner, a strike, 1-1 on Jacoby Ellsbury. Ellsbury struck out in the first inning. Each team with 2 base hits, no score in the game as the Yankees bat here in the bottom of the third. Ellsbury hits one out to second. Travis has it and on to first, and plenty of time, 2 down.
A lot has changed in 40 years, but one thing hasn't. Honda, proud fan since 1977, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Dan Shulman to Buck Martinez, Pat Tabler, no score here in the bottom of the third. 2 outs and the bases empty as Starlin Castro steps in for the Yankees and takes a fastball just outside at the knees for ball 1. Hey, a team we talked about last night played this afternoon and won again. The Amazons, as they used to be known, or sometimes known, the New York Mets won again. Now they're beating a bad team in Cincinnati, but the Mets, decimated by injuries, just keep winning. As again, Quinn Wolcott is hearing it from the Yankees side of the field. But as teams like the Marlins and Pirates are kind of falling off right now in the standings, the Mets aren't going away. Here's a fly ball, well struck, deep left field and gone. Starlin Castro with his 20th home run of the season, and the Yankees have a 1-0 lead.
Marcus Stroman really overmatched Castro in his first at bat with breaking balls. So he went up in his second at bat looking for a breaking ball. For Castro, that's his 20th home run. It's also the 20th home run that Stroman has allowed. And it looked like he had breaking ball on his mind. He was very patient, waited for the pitch to break, and then delivers this powerful swing.
First time in his career that he has hit 20 home runs in a season. Go down and get it. Started line drive, gets it right into that front row in left field. Much better, a little bit more under control swing from Castro this time. Well, that's what you're supposed to do with hanging breaking balls when they stay in the middle of the plate.
Now ball and a strike on Didi Gregorius.
Castro hit 6 in game 1. He hit 5th in game 2, and tonight he's hitting 3rd. So Joe Girardi picked a good time to move him up in the order. Had a feel about Castro against Stroman.
Now Gregorius slices one into left field, and that's down for a hit. He's thinking 2. Upton's throw is offline. It'll be a double.
Boy, where would the Yankees be without Castro and Didi Gregorius this year? Up the middle, outstanding young double play combination at second base and at shortstop, and offensively. Combined now, they've hit 37 home runs and they've driven in over 120 runs. Gregorius is thinking double as soon as he hits that ball, slicing it to left field, throws off the line, and there he stands in scoring position.
For Mark Teixeira. Teixeira struck out to end the first. So after 2 were out, nobody on. Castro with a home run. Now Gregorius with a double. The Yankees have the lead, looking to sweep the Blue Jays. Fouled off. Teixeira appears to be all right. That shin guard down on his right leg, and the count now 0-2.
Well, that's what happened to him last year when he broke his leg. He fouled the ball off his leg, and he suffered a broken leg and missed an awful lot of time in the season. And that was one of the many injuries he's had to deal with the last couple of years that prompted him to announce his retirement.
They didn't have him for September last year, and you're right. Yankees just weren't the same after he got hurt.
Missed outside with a backdoor slider.
They're also missing their first baseman of the future, Greg Bird. They thought he was going to get the bulk of the play at first base, but he got hurt in spring training.
Yep.
Hasn't had one at bat this year.
Shoulder injury. They're hoping to have him back at full strength and competing for that spot in 2017. 1-2, and Teixeira got a piece of it.
And Bird's here with the Yankees right now, getting ready to go to the Arizona Fall League. He's going to go to the Instructional League first. He's 23 years old. They showed some power last year for Joe Girardi, so they're really optimistic that he can be in the competition, at least, with Tyler Austin for first base next spring.
He's got a sweet looking swing.
Like Travis Shaw, an awful lot like Travis Shaw. Had 11 home runs last year in limited play.
That should play right here in this ballpark, shouldn't it?
Yeah, the future is pretty bright for the Yankees, I think, especially the way Sanchez has played. Now the two middle infielders are just in the prime of their career.
Teixeira lays off, and now it's a full count. Well, things were going really well for Stroman. Getting the first 2 outs here this inning, but Castro homers, Gregorius doubles, full count now on Teixeira. McCann looming on deck if the inning continues. 3-2 pitch, missed outside, ball 4. Stroman now up to 59 pitches as he will try to get out of this jam, facing a dangerous guy, especially in this ballpark.
They threw him 3 changeups in a row, and Aaron Sanchez threw one too many right there. He reaches the seats. McCann with his 17th home run, you get it right into that happy zone, and he can take it out of here. I think this is a great move by Russell Martin to go out and talk to his young starter. You're facing a veteran in Brian McCann. You see the home runs and the production right there, but right now the inning is spinning a little bit too quickly for Marcus Stroman. You got to go out there and slow him down just a little bit.
McCann bounces the first pitch foul. He grounded out his first time up. As we mentioned last night, not playing as much as he normally does for the Yankees with the arrival of Gary Sanchez, who has been so incredible and has done such a nice job behind the plate as well. So most of the time McCann is in there, it's as is the case tonight as the designated hitter. Here's the 0-1. Laced into right field, a base hit. This is going to bring Gregorius in to score. Teixeira can lumber around to third on a long single by McCann, and the Yankees lead 2-0.
McCann's been a run producer for a long time in his big league career, and he comes up with a big hit there. Hit it right through the shift. They were playing him to pull, but he hit it so hard he hits it all the way into the outfield and drives home Didi Gregorius. He gets it past Devon Travis. He goes into right. No problem for Gregorius to score from second, and Teixeira goes first to third. Brian McCann picks up his 53rd RBI this season.
Had a big hit in last night's game and no chance. 3 guys on the right side of the infield, and he finds a hole into the outfield. You talk about Russell going out there to talk to his young starter to try and calm him down, and you try and slow it down. With Danny Barnes, he starts to get up. Pete Walker comes out to try and slow things down for Marcus. The inning's gotten away from him.
Second time through the order, the Yankees have done a nice job. Castro made the real positive adjustment, looking for a breaking ball with 2 outs.
The batter is Chase Headley, who homered last night. Swing and a miss, 0-1. So Stroman now fighting to stay in this game as Barnes is up and working in the bullpen. John Gibbons does not want to let this one get out of hand too early. The Blue Jays really in somewhat desperate need of a win heading into the big series against the Red Sox over the weekend. Red Sox in action against San Diego. They start just under an hour from now. Fouled off 0-2.
His success the first 2 innings here was sinkers down, sliders down, fastballs up. He got the pop-up on Gardner on a high fastball. He got Ellsbury through a couple of high fastballs, but now everything has been down again.
Out in front 0-2. Martin wants it down, and it's bounced in. Headley wouldn't chase.
Textbook block by Russell Martin with the runner at third, and Teixeira has plenty of room to roam as Donaldson's at shortstop. He's the closest defender to third base, but Martin did a great job of blocking that ball and keeping it right there at home plate.
In the dirt again. Martin finds it. Teixeira holds at third, and McCann holds at first.
That one looked like it might have hit the umpire. Another breaking ball to dirt. You're anticipating the ball down. One more time, Russell gets down, but it ricochets off the umpire's foot. Blue Jays catch a break.
Two. Got him. So the inning is finally over, but Stroman shaking his head as he comes off the field. Unhappy after getting the first 2 outs. He gives up a couple of runs, including one and a home run with a nice grab to boot by a Yankee fan here in the Bronx. To last night's wild game was the Edwin Encarnacion at bat in the 9th inning after a catcher's interference as Sanchez reaches out his glove and hit the backside and hit the swing of Encarnacion, but they didn't see it. But then in a 10-pitch at bat, Encarnacion battles Betances and winds up busting down the line for an infield hit and an RBI.
And that set a new career high in RBIs with 112 as he had homered in his first at bat, and he picks up an RBI in his last at bat in last night's game.
2-0 Yankees going to the top of the 4th, and a pitch right over the outside corner. Encarnacion didn't like it, and it's called strike 1. Encarnacion grounded into a double play to end the first. Devin Travis grounded into a double play in the 3rd. And now Encarnacion skies one into shallow right field, and Austin there to make the catch for the first out.
Well, the Blue Jays knew this was going to be a demanding road trip through Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and New York, and on every aspect of their play, it's not been very good. They're just 3-5. They haven't pitched well. Both the starters and the bullpen have trouble on this road trip, and they're only hitting .238 as a team. And last night, they scored 6 runs in that game in a 7-6 loss, and that was the most runs they had scored in any of the 8 games on this road trip.
Kicked it around a little bit on this road trip. They haven't come up with too many big base hits in situation. Haven't hit too many home runs. And a team that lives and dies by the home runs, that's very important.
Here's Jose Bautista again. If you weren't with us off the top of the show, he's hitting in the cleanup spot tonight. Devin Travis is leading off. Bautista hit a fly ball to center field his first time up. First time this year. First time since early last season that Bautista has been in the 4 spot. One. And a base hit through the right side.
You know, it really doesn't make any difference where you put your hitters. It's just a matter of one time through the order, and they're just batting behind one another. And I think Bautista understands the importance of this game, and that swing to me really reflects that. He needed to get on base. They got to get something going. They haven't been able to string many innings together, and it's ironic that both of their big innings on this road trip have come in the 9th inning in losing efforts. Down at Tampa Bay, they rallied in the 9th inning and fell short. And last night, they rallied in the 9th inning and fell short. It's an opportunity just to get back into a game now. You got to string some hits together.
And thanks to some walks. There were a lot of walks in those comebacks that you were just talking about for the Blue Jays late in the ball game. They were taking their walks like they did last year. Pass the baton. Keep the inning going.
Well, a huge swing there by Russell Martin, and may have tweaked a little something as he goes for a bit of a stroll outside the batter's box.
He's been dealing with
balance, wasn't he?
knee problem this year. And that looks like that front knee might have buckled on him just a little bit.
This time of the year, of course, catchers like Russell Martin play an awful lot. Have a tendency to be sore and banged up, and we've talked about him giving the sign on one knee, trying to take the pressure off his knees.
Now he sends a fly ball to left field, and Gardner will make the catch. Bautista halfway and now back to first, and Martin doesn't look so good going down the line.
No. It was the finish of the swing. You can see him hopping and skipping just a little bit to get back to the dugout. When he finished his swing, it looked like that leg gave out on him again. Watch the finish of the swing. Trying to get that firm front side, and it's not there.
That's not a good look. George Poole is immediately over to check on Martin, see if he can determine what happened and what he felt this time of the season. And we mentioned knees are just all banged up and sore. He's been crouching since February.
You can relate.
Absolutely.
Here's Troy Tulowitzki. Double to right his first time up.
Little cutter off the end of the bat, and you can see he's just trying to guard that left side, not put any pressure on it as he makes his way up first base.
Looks like he's staying in the game, though. Strapping the gear on.
Hey, he's tough as nails.
There's no bone sticking out. He's going back out there.
Ground ball to short. And that's the inning. A base hit, but nothing more. To the bottom of the 4th here in the Bronx. The Yankees lead the Blue Jays 2-0.
your official shop for authentic Blue Jays memorabilia, game used jerseys, bats, baseballs, and more. Visit jshop.ca and click on Blue Jays Auction. Guys?
All right, Barry, thank you. Lots of Blue Jays fans here at Yankee Stadium, but they haven't had a whole lot to cheer about. They're giving their best. They're trying all the way from Weyburn, Saskatchewan, among other places, but looking for the Blue Jays to try to salvage the final game of this series. They're down 2-0 in this game as the Yankees come up at the bottom of the fourth. And it's getting serious fast right now, moving into September with the Red Sox coming to Rogers Center over the weekend. Tyler Austin will lead off the inning for the Yankees. Had a base hit his first time up. And takes a strike right at the bottom end of the zone. 0-1. Houston's playing Cleveland tonight. The Astros still potentially a factor for the Blue Jays if they can play well and really insert themselves into the wild card race. They're up 3-2 on the Indians, top of the fourth.
They've won 4 in a row. Houston Astros. They got some bad news today.
Bad news with Keuchel a couple of days ago, and now it's Carlos Correa is going to be out of the lineup for a couple of days at least with a shoulder problem. So 2 of their prime players unavailable for the short term. Houston, boy, although they won 3 in a row, they fell out of it when Texas. They just haven't been able to play against Texas. If they go 500 against Texas, they're right in the hunt.
What are they, 3-13?
Yeah,
I think against
so.
the Rangers. 1-2 to Austin, and a swing and a miss. Stroman gets him for his 6th strikeout of the night.
Save during the plumbing, heating, and electrical expert sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
New York City, the Blue Jays home for the last few days. And they have lost each of the first 2 games of the series and trailing here tonight 2-0 as Stroman misses inside, ball 1 to Austin Romine. Romine, the catcher and number 9 hitter, struck out his first time up. Stroman has had some very good moments in this game, but just one bad stretch last inning. Weak ground ball back to the mound. He's got time and he'll use it. 2 down. Really, it came out of nowhere. He had pitched very well through 2 and gotten the first 2 outs in the 3rd, and then Starlin Castro touched him up for a solo home run. Gregorius doubled, and a couple of batters later would score on a base hit by Brian McCann.
You know, Dan, all the time we talk about the Blue Jay hitters, now they sit on the bench and they trade information. Well, the Yankees are doing the same thing over there, and they have not fared well against Marcus Stroman. So you can bet the veterans like Gardner and Ellsbury, Castro, Gregorius, and McCann are all exchanging information about what they might see. Maybe they can pick up the breaking ball out of his hand. Maybe he holds his hand in a different spot. So they're working over Stroman just like the Blue Jays are working over Mitchell.
Gardner is 1 for 2. 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors for the Yankees. No runs, 3 hits, and an error for the Blue Jays. The error did not figure into the scoring. Devin Travis committing that error, his 6th in the last 14 games. Upstairs, a ball and a strike.
You know, Devin Travis, of course, played half a season last year. He's played basically half a season this year, and he didn't get a chance to play in the pennant race last season. So this is the first time experiencing these types of games in his young career. And I don't care how confident you are or how experienced you are. You go out there and play these games in September. Now you see yourself tied for first place. You can't score any runs, and thinking about every mistake I make could cost us a game. So there's a little extra added pressure on younger players in games like this.
Says he's just a little bit anxious. He says he needs to slow down just a little bit. He gets ahead of himself and speeds things up. And that's just experience. We've seen that a couple of times, Buck, on this road trip where he's tried to make plays that weren't there. He tried to make them. Kevin Kiermaier's ball comes to mind, and where he tried to turn a double play in Tampa Bay instead of just getting the sure out over at first base. That's just inexperience.
Line into right field, a base hit. And Gardner is aboard with a 2-out single.
Well, this was the problem last inning for Marcus Stroman. He couldn't finish off the inning. Got the first 2 batters, Gardner and Ellsbury, then ended up giving up 2. He gets the first 2 batters here in the 4th. Now he's got to deal with Ellsbury.
And the second inning, he got the first 2 outs, then gave up a 2-out base hit to Tyler Austin. So
Trying to go away with that pitch and missed all the way across the inside part of the plate and allowed Gardner to get to it.
Now Jacoby Ellsbury, a strikeout and a ground out.
Gardner can run. And we just saw Russell Martin have some leg problems in his last at bat. Wouldn't be surprised here to see him try and take off and get himself in the scoring position. Russell had that swing where his knee looked like it was bothering him, or his leg was bothering him. It's a good time to run.
Not going, and it's down and away, a ball and a strike. Gardner with 13 stolen bases on the season. He's been caught twice. Not going again, and sent down the left field line by Ellsbury. That's a fair ball. And the Blue Jays will catch a break as it skips up into the seats in the corners, so Gardner's going to have to stop at third.
For Ellsbury, that's his first hit in 17 at-bats against Marcus Stroman, an opposite field double. Stroman really had his number, but this time Ellsbury again another 2-out hit. Bounces in fair territory and takes a bounce and goes out of play into the seats, and the Blue Jays certainly caught a break for the time being as Ellsbury was going to knock in Gardner all the way from first base.
Oh.
Missing his spots again, trying to come inside, missed all the way across the plate outside.
So 2 in scoring position with 2 down as the bullpen gets active again, and here's Starlin Castro, who homered off Stroman his last time up.
So I like that first pitch inside, move him around. That's Danny Bones getting up once again.
One-0. Good pitch there, inside corner with the knees, a ball and a strike. Castro's one of these guys, you say, oh, he's a middle infielder, second baseman, then you walk by him and you say, that's a big man. He's built more like a corner infielder than a middle infielder.
You know who he reminds me of? Andrew Jones. He's big, broad-shouldered guy, and he's got a lot of power.
To center field. Pilar is there, and that's the inning. A couple of base hits, but nothing more. Into 4. The Yankees up 2-0. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here are Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio. brought to you by WestJet, and as all Blue Jays fans know, it's a huge series coming up on the weekend. The Boston Red Sox are in town beginning Friday. Then the Blue Jays will stay home for 3 against Tampa Bay, and then, guys, they are heading west. 4 games against the Angels and 3 against Seattle.
Russell Martin in the dugout. He's a little frustrated, probably by his knee. Taking that big swing, and not sure what it's all about, but it looks like he was headed down the runway. Maybe George Poulos is going to check him out.
Yeah, he's getting visits from George Poulos and the training staff, and you go up in there between innings and they'll take a look at it.
Michael Saunders will lead off the 5th and take low ball 1. We'll keep an eye out to see if maybe Dioner Navarro is getting ready to possibly come into the game in place of Martin if Martin's unable to continue.
Interesting how the Yankees have changed their defensive alignment against Michael Saunders after he got a base hit, basically straightaway shortstop yesterday. They had 3 defenders on the right side of the infield, and now Didi Gregorius is a little bit more straight up the middle, playing a little more straight away than they were last night against Saunders.
They were playing in the pull against the left-handed pitcher last night. Now they're going to switch. Now with a couple of strikes, Chase Headley's going to go over and play on the right side and shortstop back to his normal position. I think you have to have the freedom to be able to move around your defense. With the left-hander on the mound, Michael Saunders is not going to pull him.
Couldn't check the swing, and he strikes out for the first out of the inning. Second strikeout of the night for Mitchell.
Brian Mitchell's got a good arm. I was talking to a writer before the ball game today, and in spring training, he had an outstanding spring training. It looked like he was going to make this roster. Yeah, the writer was telling me that a lot of big league scouts all through spring training were talking about Mitchell as possible trade bait, as a player to acquire. Was he going to make the roster? He's got a good arm, showing some talent tonight.
Well, I think his lot has improved dramatically because of this man right here. Luis Severino did not fare well as a starter, and as Dan mentioned earlier, they had projected Severino possibly as high as a 2 in their rotation. Now Mitchell might get more of a look as a starter for this team next year. Severino did not make any adjustments, and he would not adjust to throwing a changeup, and he threw everything about the same speed, and as a result of that, he didn't have much success.
Big arm, and they're still hoping he can turn the corner, be part of the future. Upton with a ground ball to short. And just like that, 2 down here in the 5th as Mitchell continues to set down these Blue Jays hitters.
He's got natural movement on that fastball. It's almost like a little natural cutter, and he's using it very effectively against all these right-handed hitters that the Blue Jays throw up there tonight. They're going to have to take that ball like Troy Tulowitzki did in the 2nd inning and shoot that ball to right field. Same way as Jose Bautista, his base hit went to right field.
There's Dioner Navarro. Will he be coming into the game for Russell Martin as Kevin Pillar takes high ball 1? Pillar walked in the 3rd inning, but then he was erased when Devin Travis grounded into a double play. One of 2 double plays the Blue Jays have hit into tonight. Another ground ball to short. And that's the inning. 3 up, 3 down to go the Blue Jays. Great job so far by Mitchell. It remains 2-0 Yankees, and it looks like Russell Martin is still in this game.
Rogers Center this weekend. It will be the last trip to Toronto for David Ortiz, of course, barring postseason, because he's announced his retirement, and Blue Jays Central has you covered with 34, the last hurrah. It's a special two-part sit-down interview with the man they call Big Papi. It's including his thoughts on Edwin Encarnacion as well, and it goes Friday and Saturday on Blue Jays Central, guys.
Barry, thank you. To the bottom of the fifth here in the Bronx. The Yankees lead the Blue Jays 2-0, trying to sweep the series and to make things even a little bit more interesting for them here in September, and try to make things a little more difficult for the Blue Jays, who are making things difficult on themselves right now. They come into play tonight tied for first in the American League East. Although they're playing poorly and have lost 4 out of 5, they are still tied for first in the division. Baltimore lost today, so they're a game and a half back. The Red Sox will start about half an hour from now in San Diego. A strike taken by Didi Gregorius. Gregorius doubled and scored back in the third. Came in on a base hit by Brian McCann. Both Yankee runs scoring in the third inning. The other run on a home run by Starlin Castro. A little bit low. Nobody throwing for the Blue Jays as the fifth inning begins. Danny Barnes was up in the third and the fourth, and actually now I can see him. It's Joe Biagini, I believe, as he snuck to the left out of my sight lines for a moment, but now Biagini is up as the inning begins. So that tells you how John Gibbons feels about the significance of the situation and the game, not wanting to let anything get out of hand at all. 86 pitches thrown by Stroman, and number 87 strikes out Gregorius.
That's a good slider, a very hard slider. It starts on the plate, breaks down and in, and Gregorius strikes out. And I think Stroman understands the magnitude of this inning. This is a huge inning where they are in the lineup, Gregorius, Teixeira, and McCann. So he's got to really do what he can to keep the Yankees at bay here.
He's throwing a lot of pitches.
Travis out on the outfield grass. Well, if somebody said to you, though, of the 14 outs he's gotten, 8 were strikeouts, or 7 were strikeouts rather, and 5 were on the ground, you'd say he's probably having a heck of a night. But just a couple of mistakes here and there. Castro hitting a home run. Got a ball up to McCann, lined it into right field for a base hit to score Gregorius.
It was just those 4 hitters.
Yep.
I mean, that's the only time that he has gotten out of his comfort zone.
Prior to this road trip, a 2-0 deficit would be nothing. I think now we're sitting here going, wow, they're down 2-0. Well, you know, in the past that's not been a big problem, but they haven't scored many runs on this road trip. They have just 3 hits tonight.
And it seems like so often last year in August and September, you could look at the lineup and say 5, 6, 7 guys are hot. Now it's like 1, 2, 3 guys are hot.
And 5, 6, 7 runs was nothing for the Blue Jays.
Well, I think the fact that they haven't been able to close out innings, and Stroman's had trouble both his innings. He's had guys on base and come with 2 outs and nobody on. And over the last 11 games, the Blue Jays have allowed 54 runs, 22 of those coming with 2 outs. So they haven't been able to close out innings, and I think that too reflects the people that they're playing. Play a lot of teams in the East. Everybody wants to knock everybody off, and there aren't going to be any cream puffs in this entire month.
And everybody knows everybody. No secrets between these teams.
Teams playing almost entirely within their own division in the month of September. Blue Jays will step out of the division just to play the Angels and the Mariners. The Yankees will only step out to play the Dodgers. Another foul off.
How about that? The Dodgers and the Yankees here in New York once again, and the Dodgers have Kershaw back, and it's going to be interesting to see how he fares.
Starting Friday against the Marlins, right?
And they tried to get Vin Scully back here, but it's just too long of a trip for him. Wouldn't that have been something?
Yep.
It's where he started, right here in New York with Brooklyn.
Calling the Brooklyn Dodgers. 88 years of age, and has announced his retirement at the end of the year. 2-2, misses outside. Chase Headley on deck. If McCann can get on. He cannot. Strikeout number 8, I think. Now it is. Thought it was, and now everybody heads off the field as the inning is over.
Live on your phone and tablet with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Blue Jays and stay up to the moment at any moment with scores, news, live game video highlights, and much more. Download MLB.com at-bat. It's the #1 app for live baseball. Guys, a lot of panic with a lot of the Blue Jay fans with the way they're playing lately, but as I'm sure all three of you will remember, in 1993 when the Jays last won a World Series, they had a 6-game losing streak in September and managed to overcome it.
Yeah, everything's magnified this time of year. There's no doubt about that, because there's so many teams clustered so close together in the standings. Everything seems that much more important, and Blue Jays fans obviously will be keeping an eye on what Boston does when they start against San Diego in about 20 minutes. We'll keep you apprised of what happens there. Devin Travis will lead off the 6th. Top of the order for the Blue Jays, down 2-0 to Brian Mitchell and the Yankees. Travis, Donaldson, and Encarnacion coming up. Travis has had a base hit and grounded into a double play. He's hitting .294 on the season. Mitchell falls behind, 2 balls, no strikes, and quickly Romine out to the mound.
Luis Severino's been throwing for about 3 innings now, so I think he's loose. But they have him. He's been up the last 3 innings throwing down in their bullpen. So this is going to be a very short leash for Joe Girardi, I would believe here. Mitchell's making his first start of the season,
and he's good for 95 pitches, so he's getting there slowly. I think it has more to do with where they are in the lineup. Blue Jays' best hitters are coming up right now. They might want to give him a different look 3rd time through.
A little bit high, 3 balls and a strike now on Travis. Mitchell's first appearance in the majors this year, after suffering an injury in spring training, missing most of the season. 6 minor league starts on rehab before getting called up for this one tonight. As he's in at the knees, 3-2. That's a fair ball down into the left field corner. Extra bases for Travis to begin the 6th inning, his 2nd hit of the night, and this one is a double.
Catch that one, Chase Headley at 3rd base. He has caught everything else off the bats of the Blue Jays in this series, but not this time. Ball hit sharply by Devin Travis, past the diving Chase Headley. Then a good start for the Blue Jays. You see him anticipating that ball to his right, but he just can't get there.
And Mitchell's going to get a very nice ovation from the crowd here at Yankee Stadium. 5 innings plus a batter. Certainly did his job tonight. Right-hander Luis Severino comes out of the bullpen for the Yankees. As we mentioned, he's been with the Yankees and down in the minors. He started off as a starter. Now he's come back as a reliever, and out of the bullpen he's put up some very good numbers.
Yeah, he's been much better out of the bullpen. He hasn't allowed an earned run in 11 1/3 innings out of the bullpen. He's abandoned that changeup. He's taken what he throws and he's condensed it just a little bit. He's got a big arm. Fastball slider is probably what you will see from Severino out of the bullpen now.
Devin Travis aboard with a leadoff double here in the 6th inning, and the batter is Josh Donaldson. And there's that slider in for a strike. Donaldson tonight has struck out and grounded out. He'll be followed by Encarnacion, Bautista after him. The big hitters, the power hitters coming up for the Blue Jays here in the 6th inning, trying to get something going. Fastball at 96, but it's high.
You can see he's got a great arm, and he threw a first pitch slider. The thing about Severino pitching out of the bullpen is he doesn't have to do anything more than throw fastball and slider. Chances are he's only going to face the lineup one time through the order here, pitching in the 6th inning.
Worth mentioning that barring something really surprising, Adam Warren and Dellin Betances are unavailable tonight for the New York Yankees.
They have to be.
Have to be.
I mean, they'd be machines if they were able to pitch tonight after they pitched last night. Joe Girardi used 8 pitchers in 9 innings last night.
But Betances threw over 40 pitches, same for Warren, as Warren went 2 1/3. Tyler Clippard was not available last night because he had pitched 3 days in a row, but he should be up and ready to go for tonight's game.
Tonight's scheduled starter, it was Chad Green's spot in the rotation, but he is out with an injury. They brought up Brian Mitchell. They put him in. They had some thoughts of maybe using Severino as a starter here, but they really liked him out of the bullpen. Like Buck said, just one time through, maybe a couple of innings where he can just throw as hard as he can for a couple of innings.
A pretty good pitch there, but Donaldson lays off, and it's just outside. It's a good take.
And that slider plays 89 miles an hour with some movement and some depth to it.
So the count runs full on Donaldson. Got a piece of it. Travis is going to third, and they got him hung up. Did not wait to see if the ball would get by the mound, but he does stay alive long enough to allow Donaldson to get to second. He is called out for leaving the baseline between second and third, but at least he did enough to allow Donaldson to replace him.
Now this is going to be interesting because Luis Rivera, the third base coach, is suggesting that Devin Travis didn't go out of the baseline, and this is one of the rules that's most poorly interpreted all across baseball. It is not the line between first and second. It's the line that the player establishes once he gets into the rundown. And now John Gibbons is out to support Luis Rivera, and they're talking to Mark Wagner, the third base umpire. But this call is botched an awful lot, and I don't think he tagged him. But right here, when he makes this move now, there's the baseline where he's running on the grass. So now he goes around him, and Severino missed him. So the interpretation is, did he go 3 feet away from the edge of that grass? In my mind, he didn't. When he gets to right, once he starts back,
baseline.
Now watch when he gets on the edge of the grass. He's going to turn inside. There's the baseline right there, straight to third base here. Now he's got to be 3 feet inside of that. Did he go 3 feet inside of it? I don't think so.
The Blue Jays will lose the argument. It'll go as a fielder's choice, and the end result is Donaldson's out at second now with 1 out for Edwin Encarnacion. And a fastball right over the outside corner at 97 miles an hour.
Travis got into the rundown long enough to allow Donaldson to move into scoring position. So basically you end up in the same situation you would have had he not broke for third.
Just low.
Hey, this is the thing about this ball game. Now, one swing of the bat, Edwin ties it up, and all of a sudden it's a new game. But it doesn't feel like that because Blue Jays have managed just 4 hits. But he certainly hit a dramatic home run last night in his first at bat into the second deck, deep in left field.
Well, you got the right guys up. to get back into it after that leadoff double. That is why Joe Girardi said, you know what, I don't want these guys seeing Brian Mitchell for the third time. I want to give them a different look with Severino. Let's give them a little bit more power out of that bullpen.
Encarnacion is 1 for 7 against Severino. Severino has made 3 starts against the Blue Jays. They have seen him in the past. The Yankees, they've got into the analytics heavily, and they have suggested that it's not a good thing to have a pitcher face a lineup 3 times through the order. And that's a psychology that's going around baseball. You see it a lot now.
Kind of keeps you to 5 or 6 innings at the most.
Absolutely.
Unless you're deemed to be one of those special guys who can pitch deeper into it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's fair to the pitcher.
1-2. Donaldson thought about it. He might not have been able to see the ball. He knew that Romine didn't know where it was, but he might not have been able to see how far it got away from him.
Yeah, that's the tough one. He's already in scoring position, and if you can't see the baseball as a base runner, you've got to stay there. He broke because he knew Romine couldn't see it, but Josh didn't know where the ball was or how far it had gone behind the catcher.
And that's when the batter's got to give him some help right there to let him know.
So the count now 2-2 on Encarnacion. A look back at the runner and the pitch. Grounded sharply right at Headley. He'll look the runner back and throw him out. 2 down.
I don't know where the Yankees would be in this series had not Headley played so well defensively at third. That was right at him. That wasn't that tough a play, but he has made several good plays defensively throughout this series.
That's a double play if Devin Travis doesn't stay in that rundown long enough to let Josh Donaldson to get into scoring position. Hit right on the nose once again by Encarnacion. Nothing to show for it.
So 2 down in the inning, and that'll bring up Bautista. Flied out to center in the second, hit a base hit to right in the fourth. Looks like he's taken all the way as he looks over that first pitch upstairs. Ball 1.
Taking a look at Severino. This is why John Gibbons said he wanted to mix up the lineup right here. He felt like Bautista is an RBI guy. He rises to the occasion with runners in scoring position. Here's his chance.
He's hitting 300 on the season with runners in scoring position.
Well, for his career, he's hit 245 with the bases empty, 269 when he's got men on base.
He's in a good count right here. He's got 1 home run against Severino in his career.
I don't know that anything would spark this team like this guy in particular hitting one out of the ballpark.
Yeah, you're right. It has been that kind of year for him. You got a 2-time home run champ that has not had a good season for a combination of reasons, including injuries, but he's got 17 home runs, and if he hit one right now, that would certainly boost everybody's confidence. First time they put him in the cleanup spot, and then he comes through.
2-2.
Now you can bet he's going to get another slider in this at bat. 2-2, and that's Severino's bread and butter pitch.
Yeah. After you saw that swing right there, he's going to get another one. It's a hard one, hard slider.
Got a fastball by him, 98 miles an hour, a swing and a miss. And the inning is over. Another man left on by the Blue Jays. They're still down 2-0.
travel rewards program where WestJet will match your status and treat you like gold. Learn more at westjet.com/getgold. And guys, look who's in the house tonight. Paul Simon, probably wondering if the Blue Jays are slip-sliding away here tonight.
Big baseball fan. They're playing his music here in the ballpark even as we speak. Yankees are up 2-0, and the new pitcher for the Blue Jays coming out of the bullpen is right-hander Joe Biagini.
What a nice surprise for the Blue Jays. Joe Biagini, this is going to be his 51st game. He last work on Saturday. An inning and a third. He got touched up for a couple of runs by the Rays. Kevin Kiermaier hit a home run. In fact, the first home run and only home run that Joe has given up this year. Other than that, he has been outstanding for the Blue Jays. He's now worked 57 in the third innings, and he's had 48 strikeouts.
Biagini will face the bottom third of the Yankee order. Headley, Austin, and Romine. Marcus Stroman winds up going 5 innings, gives up a couple of runs earned on 7 hits. He walked 1. He struck out 8 for most of the night. He was terrific. And a bad stretch in the third inning after 2 were out, nobody on. Homer, double, walk, single, and that cost him a couple of runs. Headley has grounded out and struck out. As Tabby Unabucco mentioned, he's played terrific defense in this series. You know, it's awfully hard to look at the Yankees as the little engine that could or anything like that, given who they are and the money they spend. But with the trades they made and the veterans that they dealt at the deadline, the fact that this team is still hanging around and competing their tails off right now, if they could somehow find their way into the postseason, I think it would be one of the biggest stories in baseball this year.
They had a lot of dead wood on their roster, including Alex Rodriguez, who they cut loose, and they traded Carlos Beltran, who was performing okay, but he was still taking up space. Then they traded Chapman, who they thought they would trade at the end of the season anyway, and traded Andrew Miller and got some great players in return. But what has happened to the Yankees since then? The infusion of the youth and their excitement has re-energized everybody on this team. And you know, they probably didn't really think anything about it, but they started playing better. Joe Girardi started mixing up the lineup, and all of a sudden they're back in the race. I don't care what you think. They're 4.5 back at the start of this series. It started this game tonight, and they are back in the race.
You know what Joe was telling me during this series? He said, we've got some young guys. Before we had old guys, we just couldn't do anything. We couldn't run the bases. They couldn't hit. We just were less blah. Now we've got some young guys. It's not like we've thrown up the white flag and we're quitting. He said, but we have some energy now. He says, this is a young man's game. And he's right. And you can see it in the way that they have played in this series.
Hey guys, some news from Washington. As you know, Steven Strasburg returned to the active roster tonight, had a barking elbow, but he came back, lasted only 2 1/3, gave up 2 hits, struck out 4. The results say he was pitching great, but he has left the game for an undisclosed reason. You would guess maybe it has something to do with that elbow again, but whatever the case may be, bad news for the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, and he has had a bad run of bad news. Of course, Tommy John surgery and all of that. So it's unfortunate, and there's a great example of a guy they shut down to protect him, and it hasn't worked one bit. They eventually had Tommy John surgery, and they shut him down in a pennant race. It may have cost themselves a chance to go to the World Series.
Have they been in the pennant race since? Have they been in the playoffs since that season where they shut him down?
Well, didn't they shut him down in 12? And they made it a couple of years ago. I think that was after he
after he had Tommy John.
When they lost to St. Louis. St. Louis came back and beat him in the division series.
Right.
I mean, there's no guarantees, right? That's the point I was making. There's no guarantees that you're going to get into the playoffs. The best laid plans, right?
They've got a very good team, but a healthy Strasburg pitching after Scherzer. You line up Scherzer, Strasburg, and then maybe Roark in a game 3. That matches up with just about anybody.
You get into the postseason, it's all about your starting pitching.
2-2 the count on Tyler Austin. And the Biagini pitch, grounded foul. Cleveland has now taken a 6-3 lead on Houston, bottom of the 5th in Cleveland. Mentioned earlier, the Orioles lost today, the Tigers lost today, so some good news on the out-of-town scoreboard for the Blue Jays. They are about a minute or 2 away from getting underway at Petco Park in San Diego. The Red Sox are there. David Price on the mound taking on the Padres. Swing and a miss. Good movement on that pitch. 2 down.
The all-new 2017 Ridgeline, our newest vehicle and their newest fan. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Joe Biagini with back-to-back strikeouts to begin his outing tonight. He'll now face Austin Romine, who hits a ground ball to short. Backhanded stop by Tulowitzki, and that's a nice 1-2-3 inning for Biagini. Maybe some good relief work can spark the offense. 5, 6, 7 coming up for the Jays.
Folks, at Bear, you could win one of 3 Toronto Blue Jays VIP weekends in 2017. Contest details and rules available at bluejays.com/Bear Contest. Guys?
Barry, thank you. Joe Biagini, a terrific inning coming in and getting the Yankees in order, including a couple of strikeouts.
Well, this is the second strikeout, and watch the movement on this pitch. It's right there. It's a changeup, and then it disappears. He turns it over and gets a terrific moving action on it down and in for the second strikeout of the inning. Joe Biagini has made dramatic strides, and he continues to work hard every single day.
You know, on top of taking something off of it, that had some screwball movement to it. Tough.
Aaron Judge is taking over in right field for Tyler Austin. The Yankees up 2-0 going to the top of the 7th. Luis Severino to face Russell Martin.
Severino looks like the type of relief pitcher everybody is looking for in this era of baseball. He comes in, he throws strikes, he throws 97, and he's got a wipeout slider. They may have found something and stumbled upon it.
I think so. You know, it didn't work as a starter because you said it, trying to work 3 times through a lineup, everything was the same speed. Well, you could do that out of the bullpen. This reminds me of Aaron Sanchez last year. Out of necessity, he moved to the bullpen, and he was golden for the Blue Jays last year in the 8th inning.
There was a number 42 that pitched here for a long time for the Yankees that began his career as a starter, and they said, well, he's not very good as a starter. Let's try him in the bullpen a little bit.
Worked out okay. And Martin to a knee again. He is battling some discomfort in that left knee. We have seen it on a number of swings. He has obviously been able to convince John Gibbons to stay in the game, but it looks like Gibby just pointed down to somebody, presumably Navarro.
Yeah, he told DeMarlo Hale after this swing, watch this swing, and Russell collapsed. You just can't put weight on that left knee. And after that swing, John Gibbons turned around and told DeMarlo Hale, get somebody up, but this is going to be it for Russell.
Yeah, ideally you want to hit against a firm front side. You can see it in the background right there, shaking his head. So it doesn't look like he can continue.
And he's barely going to get out of the box as he's thrown out, and that's, you got to imagine that's going to be all for Russell Martin. You got to applaud him for wanting to stay in the game, but it doesn't look like he's going to get that chance.
That's about as bad a news as the Blue Jays can get with Russell, as hot as he has been, and he's been their most productive hitter of late. Hopefully it's nothing more than maybe the rest of this game off and give him a chance with the off day tomorrow to regroup a little bit. He's tough as nails.
Most home runs as a catcher since August the 1st, and to lose that bat even with the Blue Jays not hitting, that's not good news. He's a warrior. He wants to keep trying to play, but your body's saying, I don't think so, not tonight.
Well, he's putting the gear back on, so maybe we were a little bit premature here about whether or not he's coming out of the game. Nobody's talking to him, but it sure looked like after that swing, like John Gibbons made a motion as if to say, okay, get somebody ready here.
Wow, what a gamer. I mean, he's hurting. He's facing a guy throwing 98 miles an hour. You can see him grimace as he tries to get out of the batter's box. And he's saying, don't take me out of this game.
Fouled off by Tulowitzki, a ball and 2 strikes. It looks like John Gibbons is sending DeMarlo Hale over to find out what the situation is.
And what Russell is saying is, hey, I'm a presence behind the plate. Don't worry about me hitting. Just leave me in this game and let me catch. I'll get our guys through it. But both the manager and the bench coach checking with Russell Martin to see his well-being. But you know, that's the beauty of being a catcher. You can have an impact, but just by sitting back there and catching, calling pitches and everything else. And I don't know if they've convinced him to come out of the game or not, but it doesn't look like it.
There's a reason why his teams have been in the playoffs as many times as they have. That kind of toughness.
Two and two, just missed below the knees on that slider. The Yankees piecing together a pitching staff with guys who have been called up from the minors, whether it's Sessa, whether it's Mitchell, Severino coming back. Lined up the alley in left center field, and this one is going to get all the way to the wall. Troy Tulowitzki with his second double of the night.
Boy, another good at bat for Tulowitzki, and he had fouled off a couple tough pitches to keep the at bat alive, and then he gets a pitch that he can hammer, and he hammers it up the alley in center field.
You know, when you're facing a guy like Severino who throws that hard, all you want to concentrate on is shortening up your swing and make sure you catch it out in front, and that's what Troy does. He's going to supply the power. You just make sure you get it out in front, and he does.
Tulo's now 3 for 6 against Severino.
Here's Michael Saunders.
Situation where you put one swing on the ball, hit it out, and it's a brand new ball game. I mean, that's what the Blue Jays can do.
Saunders 0 for 2, a ground out and a strikeout. And a well located fastball at 97 for strike 1. The Blue Jays tonight are 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. And sometimes it's not how much you hit, it's when you hit. Can you come up with some big hits with the men on base or in scoring position? And they have not been able to do that so far tonight.
Well, they're going to stay away from Michael Saunders right now. They're going to try and keep him in the big part of the ballpark.
Oh-2. Inside at 98 miles an hour, ball 1. This is a potential weapon out of the bullpen for the Yankees. Fair ball. Throw down to first, not in time. Saunders will beat it out as Tulowitzki comes to third.
I'm sure they're going to take a look at this one. Joe Girardi's up on that first step. He wants to take a look at it. Right away, he said, let's review this one.
Michael Saunders did a heck of a job. Once he identified that it was going to be fair, he busted it out of the box, and this will give you a good idea. Teixeira presents a great target for Romine, and there's the stretch. He's on the bag before the ball impacts the glove. That's going to be tough to overturn, in my opinion.
It's got to be in the back of the glove before the foot hits. This replay review is powered by Samsung. Is there enough there for them to overturn it?
You know, Teixeira being a right-handed throwing first baseman, that throw to the inside, he just couldn't step towards the ball.
Boy, is this close.
He caught the ball out in front of him, but he just couldn't step to the ball, so it took that extra second to get into his glove. Maybe that allows Michael Saunders a chance to beat it out. Concrete evidence?
Wow, that's really close.
I don't know if there's enough there to overturn the call on the field.
Yeah, the call on the field is that he is safe.
There, it's in the back of the glove. Man, that's close. This is a huge call. This one might take a while, fellas.
Well, man, what they've done too, they've changed the interpretation of what is a catch. As soon as that ball touches the back of that glove, that is deemed a catch. And here's another look at it. Look at Saunders. Look at it. Fair. Roman's throw to the glove of Teixeira. But C.B. Buckner at first base. The umpire calls him safe. And put on the bag before it touches the glove.
When does the glove move that shows that it's in the leather?
I think they're going to uphold this call on the field. I don't think there's enough evidence to overturn the call.
Meanwhile, as they do that, everybody's huddled around the pitcher's mound, and Luis Severino hasn't thrown a pitch.
When it hits the back of the glove, there is his heel already down before the toes come down. They've made their ruling. And he's out at first base.
Wow. They called him out. Mark Carlson, the second base umpire, is the crew chief, and he made the gesture, fist in the air, and Romine and Girardi get the benefit of that replay.
Well, you talk about a fraction of a second being the difference between safe and out. So it's runner at third, 2 down, and the batter is Melvin Upton Jr. A walk in the third and a ground out in the fifth. So the Blue Jays are now 0 for 7 tonight with runners in scoring position. Swing and a miss.
Got to get on that fastball. He's going to show you one fastball in that at bat.
You wonder if a pitcher, especially a righty, obviously gets into a comfort zone as good as the hitters are on this team, because almost everybody's a right-handed batter, and there's not often a different look being presented in this lineup.
Right, and because his strength is the slider to the outer part of the plate to right-handed hitters, he's got a lot of freedom and a lot of room for air. So everything he throws is designed to go down and away from that right-handed bat.
One lefty in the lineup tonight for the Blue Jays, Michael Saunders.
One, two, upstairs with a fastball, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Severino struck out Bautista, threw him an inside fastball in a similar count. Upton might get the same thing. Yep, he went with a slider and a good one.
90 miles an hour down and away, and Melvin's able to keep this at bat alive. He came up with a clutch hit for the Blue Jays last night, an infield squibber off the end of the bat. Needs to do it here.
Runner at third, 2 down, 2-0 Yankees. Inning over. Up to 99 with a fastball as Upton can't catch up. 7th inning stretch in the Bronx, and it remains the Yankees 2 and the Blue Jays 0. Cast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Luis Severino dealing out of the Yankee pen. A couple of innings and frustration for Blue Jay batters tonight. They're down 2-0 going to the bottom of the 7th, and Russell Martin is indeed still in the game.
Yeah, and I think he talked his way back into this game. It looked like DeMarlo Hale and John Gibbons both said, hey, Russell, you know, let's get you out of there. You're not feeling good. And he says, wait a minute. I'm the catcher on this team. We're playing big games. Leave me in this game because I can have an impact behind the plate. Russell knows his body well. He understands if he's going to put himself in harm's way. He's having some trouble with his knee. It's sore. It's September. But he's the leader of this team behind the plate. He said, I'm staying in this game.
Do you pinch hit for him the next time up?
Just depends on the situation you're in.
Clearly, swinging the bat,
No,
he
he's
doesn't
not
have
swinging
a
the bat
strong
well.
front side.
Not at all.
But it looks like he can catch.
Well, he thinks he can.
And that's all I need.
Yep. Game calling, confidence. He's the starting catcher on this team that's in first place, and he's not leaving in this game with his team behind.
Brett Gardner is going to lead off the bottom of the 7th. Joe Biagini is back for his 2nd inning of work. Terrific first inning for Biagini. A couple of strikeouts and a ground out as he faces Gardner, who's got a couple of hits tonight, 2 for 3 overall. Curveball and a good one. It's 0-2.
He's got a lot of weapons to get you out. He was saying his cutter has become a nice pitch for him. We've seen his changeup. We saw that last inning. He can drop that curveball on you, and he throws hard. It's a deceptive windup. It's very slow and methodical, but then he explodes towards home plate. He's got a good fastball.
They're underway in San Diego. The Red Sox did not score in the top of the first inning. David Price against Jared Cozart. And remember, again, with the Red Sox playing in a National League park, that means no David Ortiz in the starting lineup again for Boston.
Yeah, he didn't play in the first 2 games, and just a big bat out of their lineup. And just like the impact of Edwin and Donaldson, you don't have David Ortiz in the lineup. They're a different team.
He was honored before the game tonight by Don Orsillo, who's now out in San Diego.
Nice.
They were together a long time in Boston.
Yeah, former play-by-play man for the Red Sox. 2-2 the count on Gardner with Ellsbury and Castro to follow. Both bullpens quiet at the moment. Laced foul.
Joe Biagini was a starter in the minor leagues with the Giants, and he never pitched above Double-A. That was in 2015. He made 22 starts pitching in Double-A. Pitched very well. But there's one thing that you really got to compliment the Blue Jays on, is the ability to identify a Double-A pitching talent when nothing really stands out. You look at his strikeouts. He had 84 strikeouts on 130 innings. He gave up 112 hits, but nothing really stands out when you look at the stat sheet. So you got to give them credit for scouting him, identifying him, and saying this is a big-bodied guy that has a lot of weapons. They took him in the Rule 5 draft. There's another good pitch from Biagini.
Well, that's the first thing that you notice when you see Joe Biagini. He's 6'5" with long arms and a big barrel chest, so you know the pitching frame is there.
When we went to San Francisco to play the Giants, I was standing next to Bruce Bochy, the manager, and he says, where's that Biagini guy? I said, he's right over there. He goes, that's Joe Biagini, and we gave him up?
No, you gave him up because you've got a lot more Joe Biaginis in your system, and you couldn't protect all of them.
I don't think he thought he had too many Joe Biaginis.
Here's Jacoby Ellsbury, and he'll swing and a miss over the top of a slider down and in. We've got some activity now with the Blue Jays pen. Right-hander Barnes is up for the 3rd time tonight. He's been joined now by Brett Cecil. And Barnes just lost his footing on the way down that bullpen mound, trying to throw a pitch. Under the glove of Encarnacion into the right field corner. That's going to be 2 at least. And Ellsbury will put the brakes on at second base. Drive of the game brought to you by the all-new Civic, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Starlin Castro steps to the plate in the 3rd inning, and after striking out the first time against Marcus Stroman, this time he hits a laser to left field. It ends up in the first row for his 20th home run of the season, tonight's drive of the game. And with that home run, he becomes the 4th second baseman in Yankee history with a 20 home run season. Cano did it 5 times, Soriano did it back-to-back in the early 2000s, and Joe Gordon did it 4 times in the 30s and 40s. So congratulations to Starlin Castro on his 20 home run season.
Terrific season for Castro, and as you mentioned before, that's his first 20 home run season. Previous high was 14. He did it twice in Chicago. He had 2 14 home run seasons, but now he's a 20 home run hitter.
Runner in scoring position after the double by Ellsbury, his second hit of the night. Gardner and Ellsbury are 4 for 8 tonight.
Those are the guys you want to keep off the bases. He's got a couple of doubles, and we just talked about Castro's home run. Some extra base hits. Do you know in the series that the Yankees played right before this one in Baltimore, they didn't have an extra base hit? Not one in the 3-game series against the Orioles.
Got shut out in the first 2 games. Came back to win the 3rd game. They've won the first 2 here. They're 9-4 in their last 13. Popped him up. 2 down. Let's get an update from Jamie. Well, right now, Jamie, what the Blue Jays are hoping for, second to, of course, a comeback here, is more help on the out-of-town scoreboard. They got help earlier today when the Rays beat the Orioles. Now looking for some help from the Padres against the Red Sox. Pete Walker to the mound to talk with Biagini and Martin.
It looks like he's talking more with Martin than he's talking with Biagini, and they just wanted to make sure who they want to go after here. Didi Gregorius or Mark Teixeira. Gregorius is a lefty bat. Teixeira switch hitter, of course, who would bat left-handed against Biagini. So Martin looked like he had more input into this discussion than Joe Biagini, of course.
Didi's hitting over 280. Mark Teixeira's hitting under 200.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're going to put him on.
Well, again, we talk about why Russell Martin stays in the game. That's exactly why. He's been catching the whole ball game. He knows, sitting behind Gregorius and Teixeira, who he wants to attack. So when he was asked by Pete Walker, he said, let me walk Gregorius and I'll work to Teixeira.
And here's how quickly things can change in a year plus, say, in baseball. Last year before the injury, Mark Teixeira is a semi-viable MVP candidate in the American League, and Didi Gregorius is a struggling first-year Yankee trying to find his footing here in the Bronx. Now Teixeira is basically at the end of his career, retiring in a few weeks. Gregorius moves into the cleanup spot. He's having a great year, and they walk Gregorius to get to Teixeira.
Yeah, baseball is something that really will sort itself out over time. And Gregorius, he was replacing Jeter last year and had a terrible start to the season. Did okay in the second half, but now he's their cleanup hitter.
Still have to be careful to Mark Teixeira, though, the veteran. He's been in these situations, and you might just rattle his cage just a little bit.
But the thing about it is, Russell's been behind 3 at-bats now, and they know how they have had success with him. He has struck out and grounded out to second. He also walked. So Russell's got a good game plan, I'm sure.
2 on with 2 out in the bottom of the 7th. The Yankees trying to add to their 2-run lead. Swing and a miss.
See, that's a fastball that just disappears, and he's got such a great delivery with it right over the top, but it goes straight down with late movement at 96.
Originally a 26th round pick of the Giants back in 2011. Spent 4 years in the Giants minor league system before being taken in the Rule 5 draft. A lot of people wondering what becomes of Joe Biagini moving forward. I think you guys would both agree down the road the Blue Jays project him as a starter. Whether there's room for him next year or not remains to be seen, but you guys both see him as a starter in the future.
Yeah, I do. I think he's got the body for it. He's got the assortment of pitches for it. And he's got the mindset. He's a tough kid.
Good curveball.
I have watched him all season long, and I can't recall one situation where I thought, man, this is a rookie, and he's a little bit rattled right now. He doesn't get rattled. We have seen him step off and pick off guys at second. We have seen him step off at an early break and handle that. He's calm.
One, two. Swing and a miss and a high fastball to get him and end the inning. A great job by Joe Biagini. 2 shutout innings here in relief tonight. On to the 8th, 2-0 Yankees.
Presented by the all-new 2017 Ridgeline. A lot of things have changed, but one thing hasn't. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays. Proud fan since 1977.
To the 8th inning here in New York. Yankee Stadium. The Yankees up 2-0 on the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have been held to 5 hits tonight. They are 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Only 1 3-up, 3-down inning. Sounds like a broken record, but they've had their chances. They just have not been able to come up with some clutch hits tonight. Severino back on the mound. Pilar leads off the inning. Pilar a walk and a ground out. He'll be followed by Travis and Donaldson. Severino in his 3rd inning in relief. He's faced 7 batters, gotten 6 of them, struck out a couple. At times has been overpowering.
Well, he was a starter, and he started the season as a starter. They sent him down to the minor leagues. They kept him stretched out, but since he has come back to the major leagues, he's pitched out the bullpen. He's pitched very effectively, and he's being mentored down in that bullpen by another guy who was a starter in the minor leagues, who's been switched to a reliever, Dellin Betances. Betances says this guy's got some talent, and I'm going to teach him how to transition into the bullpen.
Strikes out Pilar.
That's wicked.
As a reliever, he can really focus more on just the 2 pitches, right? The fastball and the slider.
Yeah, that's all he needs. And, you know, to me, it looks like this guy could end up as the closer, and Betances could end up as the setup guy.
Devin Travis sends a fly ball to right field. Judge is there, and quickly 2 down. Jamie Campbell's got another update. The 2 teams, the Blue Jays and Red Sox, tied for the lead in the American League East. Heading into action tonight, an off day for both tomorrow. And of course, Boston is in Toronto beginning Friday night. So it could be anything from the Blue Jays a game up to tied to a game down, depending on the outcome of the 2 games tonight. Josh Donaldson is 0 for 3. And Roberto Osuna is up in the pen for the Blue Jays.
Osuna hasn't pitched an awful lot lately. Blue Jays have an off day tomorrow, so with this game just a 2-run game, looks like he's going to come on and pitch the bottom of the 8th.
Three and 1 the count on Donaldson.
Get that guy on, bring the tying run to the plate. That's what John Gibbons is hoping for right here. He's got his 2 best hitters coming up.
And there's a base runner.
Well, Josh Donaldson has done a great job of taking those base on balls and passing the baton to a guy behind him that can tie it up with one swing of the bat.
93rd walk for Donaldson this year, and here's the guy the Blue Jays would like to have at the plate in this kind of a situation. Edwin Encarnacion is 0 for 3 tonight, but of course having a huge productive season. 37 home runs and 112 runs driven in. Power against power, and a strike at the knees at 98. Only Mark Trumbo and Brian Dozier, who's on an unbelievable tear, have more home runs this year than Edwin Encarnacion.
Edwin has that ability to make any ballpark look small. And he made Yankee Stadium look small yesterday with that blast into the second deck down the left field line.
Oh, and 2. It has been an impressive performance out of the bullpen for Luis Severino. Slider taken low.
He got a little too careful with that slider. Didn't really throw it, and because of that he kind of steered it into the dirt. He's got an electric slider. We've seen it as high as 90, so he can go ahead and turn it loose and just trust it to break.
Yeah, he threw that one like he didn't want to make a mistake.
High with a fastball. 2 and 2.
I think Romine's done a good job with Severino tonight, mixing up the pitches very well. He's only got 2 of them, but he's kept the Blue Jays guessing.
2 pretty good ones, though.
Oh, they're top notch.
2-2 on the way. Fly ball to right field. Judge has room. And the inning is over. Time now for a Blue Jays Central update. Once again, here are Jamie and Greg in the Samsung broadcast studio.
is a must-have for all Blue Jays fans. It lets you stay up to date with the latest scores, breaking news, game highlights, and analysis of Canada's team. Plus, never miss a single pitch with our in-depth live game tracker. It's available on iOS and Android devices. Now let's get you back up to the booth.
And to the bottom of the 8th inning here in the Bronx, a 2-0 lead for the Yankees, and Blue Jay closer Roberto Osuna is on to get some work.
Yeah, Roberto, the first time that we have seen him in this series, he worked Sunday in that game down in Tampa Bay. Through an inning, had a couple of strikeouts, picked up his 30th save in that game. This is his 60th game that he's appearing in now.
The first batter he will face is Brian McCann. 2 very good innings for Joe Biagini out of the bullpen. McCann will be followed by Headley and Judge here in the bottom of the 8th. The Yankees up 2-0. Jammed him, and a pop-up for Travis. In the Yankee bullpen, Tyler Clippard is up. We mentioned no Warren, no Betances. Severino's gone 3. It looks like Clippard, who's had some experience closing in his big league career, is going to get a chance to work the 9th inning here tonight. The batter, Chase Headley's 0 for 3, including a couple of strikeouts. Looking ahead to the top of the 9th inning, the Blue Jays will send up 4, 5, and 6. Jose Bautista, Russell Martin, and Troy Tulowitzki. The Jays have been held to just 5 hits in this game. There's a base hit for Headley.
What a series Chase Headley has had against the Blue Jays. We've already talked about his defense, how well he has played down there, saving a bunch of runs for the Yankees. This is Chase's first hit tonight. He had a big home run in last night's ball game. 2-run shot that was basically the difference in the ball game. And he had a walk in the first game, so he's done it all for the Yankees.
Now here's Aaron Judge. He did not start the game, came on defensively a couple of innings ago for Tyler Austin out in right field. Runner is going. Throw down by Martin. Safe at second, and now Travis is saying have a look, feeling that he clipped Headley on the way by.
Yeah, they're going to look at it. John Gibbons never even hesitated. He asked the umpires to take a look at this tag play at second base, and obviously at this point in the ball game, get a chance to record an out, you go ahead and take it. Headley has 6 steals. There's the tag. He is well in front of the bag, and he swipes at Headley. He made contact before he was there. He is out. If they play that angle right there, there's the contact on the leg. He's not at the base. Headley, he extends his left hand. Travis tags him on the leg before he hits second base.
Yeah, that's right there. That should be an easy one to overturn.
It looks like they've come to a quick decision, and he's out. Pretty athletic play there by Travis.
Yeah, he let the ball take him right into the base path. It was offline a little bit, but instead of staying behind the baseline, he came in front of the baseline and was able to tag Headley before he got to second.
And the reaction, watch him as soon as the play is called safe, right away. He said, I want to look at that one.
Judge just missed it.
That might have been the highest fly ball I've ever seen.
The inning is over on that note. Going to the 9th, last chance for the Blue Jays. Here comes Clippard, 2-0 Yankees. weekend for the Blue Jays. The Red Sox are coming to town. The series will open up Friday night. We'll have it for you here on Sportsnet. And that man right there, Marco Estrada, will be starting the first game of the series for the Blue Jays. Jay Happ and Aaron Sanchez will start Saturday and Sunday respectively. Right now the Red Sox are leading the Padres 2-1 as San Diego bats in the bottom of the second.
Tyler Clippard comes in. No Dylan Betances tonight. So Tyler Clippard, who has saved games in the past, will try to nail this one down. He has pitched with Arizona and the Yankees this year, combined 56 games. Fastball, breaking ball, changeups. He'll throw a lot of changeups. Righties have had troubles against him. Not an overpowering guy. Much different than Luis Severino, who we just saw.
32 saves for the Nationals back in 2012. Had 17 last year for Oakland. So he's done this before as he spins Bautista out of the box with an up and in fastball. Bautista, Martin, and Tulowitzki, but Dioner Navarro has come out in the on deck circle to bat for Martin. So Martin talked his way into staying in the game to catch but not to hit, and Navarro is going to bat for Martin here in the 9th inning. There's the changeup from Clippard, a big pitch for him, and it's 1-1.
Clippard has 54 saves in his career, and Dan, you mentioned 2012 with the Nationals. He had the 17 saves with Oakland and picked up 2 more with the Mets in 2015 when he was part of that postseason team, pitched in the World Series and pitched in 3 games with the Mets working out of their bullpen. Took a loss in the World Series.
1-1 the count on Bautista. If the Yankees win this game, they will be 2.5 games out of the second wild card spot in the American League, with Baltimore losing earlier today.
Yeah.
2.5 out of a playoff spot.
And now they're legit. You can consider them in the race anytime you get that close because they play everybody they need to play.
A called strike, says Quinn Wolcott, and it's 2-2.
The Yankees will have 7 more home games here. 4 against Tampa Bay, 3 against the Dodgers. Then they go to Boston and Tampa Bay and finish up with 4 in Toronto.
And that's their only road trip. Just one road trip the rest of the season.
2-2. On the appeal, he went. 1 down in the 9th. Now for a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central. Here are Ken and Ivanka. All right, guys, we look forward to that. Thank you. 1 down here in the 9th inning. And the Blue Jays 2 outs away from being swept. Here's Dioner Navarro to bat for Russell Martin. Navarro came that close a couple of days ago, Monday afternoon, to what would have been a 2-run homer out in right field. Aaron Judge right about at the fence, reached up just about to the top of the wall and made the catch. You know, you can certainly make a case that a foot here, a foot there in this series could be much different for the Blue Jays. The ball smoke hit to left that Gardner caught. The ball that Encarnacion just hit almost to the wall in right field, but you can make an even better case that the Blue Jays haven't played great baseball here this week.
They just haven't come up with the big clutch, big base hit. That's been the problem.
Yep.
Great plays by Headley at third base. I think all by himself. He saved 3 runs probably all by himself down at third base. Robbed Josh Donaldson yesterday. Russell Martin.
Well, when you're not going good, you lose 7-6 and 2-0 instead of, you know, getting blown out in one but finding a way to win the other. They've been just not quite good enough in all 3 games.
And when you look at Stroman's outing tonight, the home run to Castro and then the RBI single to McCann. That's all that has happened here in this game offensively. 1 inning of scoring.
1-2. Last time the Blue Jays were shut out, it was August the 15th, and it was here. Chad Green started the game for the Yankees and was overpowering for much of that. He had 12 strikeouts, didn't he, in 6 innings in that game?
Yeah, he pitched very well, and obviously he's hurt now, but that was a great game against the Blue Jays. Blue Jays have been swept twice this season. Once by the Rays in May, and earlier in April at Rogers Center, the White Sox swept them.
Both at home.
Yep.
2-2 the count. Swing and a miss, 2 down.
For his career versus the Blue Jays, Clipper has a save, and they've only hit 132 against him. That's in 7 games. Fastball changeup combination, a little bit of a breaking ball. That time it looked like he threw one a little bit harder to Navarro.
So now down to their final out. It's Troy Tulowitzki, who has 2 of the 5 hits the Blue Jays have tonight. Both of them have been doubles. Check swing pop up, and this should do it. And the Yankees have swept the Blue Jays here in the Bronx. What a series for New York, and what a tough few days for the Blue Jays. Hoping to build some momentum heading home to take on the Red Sox. They cannot score tonight, and the Yankees beat them 2-0.
3-6 on the road trip, and Blue Jays are going to have to regroup and do it quickly because everybody's closing ground on them. Joe Girardi's team, they're back in it. There's no question about it. They are back in. They hunt for the wild card at least. And you got to give the credit to the Yankees. They called up some youngsters. They've infused this team with enthusiasm and energy, and it's paid off for them.
And now they're starting to win games. We talked at the beginning that Marcus Stroman has to come up big, and for the most part, Marcus Stroman was outstanding. He only had a stretch where he gave up 4 batters. 2 of them came around to score, and that was it tonight. The Yankees just a little bit tougher. Luis Severino, I thought, was the star of the game for New York.
Blue Jays will try to clear their heads with the off day tomorrow. The Red Sox at Rogers Center Friday night. Time now for Sportsnet Central. Back to the studio again. Here are Ken and Ivanka.